Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel here today. Today we're going to be reacting to episodes 22 and 23 of Revolutionary Girl Utena, and we're very excited to be here on a bit of a weird one, and I'll explain why. So I'm recording this a week before you're going to see it, which is very cool. I'm planning on putting out a Patreon. I haven't done any of the Patreon stuff yet, so I don't know any of the details, but I'm guessing it'll be in the description starting next week. So yeah, the general gist will be that you pay a monthly fee and that you will get episodes 1 week early. So that's cool. I'm getting myself 1 week early as of right now. But again, it's very early to the point where I don't even know what I'm doing yet. There will be a tier. I'm imagining it'll be somewhere in the $5 to $10 range for a month, and then you'll get every single video on my channel 1 week early. That's on a base level. I could tweak tiers and that kind of thing to my liking, to what seems to work and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But again, it's weird. This is happening in the future. I'm just getting ahead right now. And the other weird thing is, hey, I don't have YouTube comments. I don't know what you guys thought about episode 21 and my thoughts on episode 21 and that kind of thing. So I have nothing really to go off except for just watching the next couple of episodes and doing my thing. I don't know. I guess I can just base most of this on preview from last week, or the episode I saw yesterday, which was about Mikage. We're doing a Mikage thing. It may even be an origin story type deal. It may be whatever happened with Nomura Memorial Hall. Again, I've implied a lot that I don't think what happened to the boys there, the Black Rose Society, was an accident. We're going to see how Mikage plays into that. We're going to see how Mamiya plays into that as well, what their relationship's like potentially. So yeah, looking forward to the deep dive there. I think, again, I want to reiterate from yesterday's video, which was last week's video for you guys, that, hey, those words from Anchi at the end of the episode were fucking weird. Really weird, right? Kind of implying that certain people, maybe even Anchi herself, need to jump through certain hoops to be with the ones they love, and may be willing to do literally anything, put up with anything, literally be a slave in somebody like Kaiko's case to be with these people? Is that healthy? Is that something we should condone? That we throw every and all other decision out just for love? Or some semblance of love, or whatever we think there? Is that a good thing? Probably not. And I think that's probably I think Kaiko's case and how it applies to the Utena Anchi stuff shouldn't be undervalued, I guess, right? I kind of focused a lot on Wakaba yesterday, but Anchi Utena is also a very similar, almost slave-master dynamic in some ways. And then what are you saying about a prince-princess dynamic, a husband-wife dynamic? It gets pretty interesting pretty quickly. But that's enough pontificating, otherwise this thing will go on forever. I'm going to jump into episode 22, chill stuff. So if you like the video, consider liking the video. If you like the video and you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Comment below anything you thought about the episode, anything I could do to improve my presentation. Comment below. I'm doing follow for follow on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter if you'd like me to follow you back, and the Discord. Join Discord, love Discord, Discord. And I guess I need to say Patreon now. Join the Patreon if you want next week's episode a week early. It should all be up there eventually. I'm planning to do it this weekend, so should be the idea there. So yeah, I mean, I'll see you guys in a second for episode 22 of Revolutionary Girl Utena. Rightio, I've got episode 22 up there ready to go. 23 minutes and 27 seconds on this one, so sync up accordingly with your copy. Still using the Some Stuff subset if you want to go get that, but not for very much longer. After episode 24, I'll be out. So again, if you have something for me, don't hesitate to link it to me, because that'll be the best way for me to get the best thing that'll please the most people, which is my goal. There's also picture in picture if I didn't say so already. So yeah, I'm going to give this a 3, 2, 1 and jump right in. Radio, 3, 2, 1, go. We're back for more Utena, even though it wasn't that big of a break for me, but that's neither here nor there. It's weird just jumping into an episode without a massive yap session. Like, this is a new thing for me. This is new. This is different. Take my revolution indeed. I liked one of my points from yesterday quite a bit, how we're looking at these side characters. We used to just get kind of one perspective, right, of the entire show, But as of this second arc, in a lot of ways, I think the most obvious example being the Shadow Girls, we're expanding scope. We're looking at a larger picture. We're taking more things into account. We're considering opinions that we used to not consider very much. I think that's really awesome thematically. It just comes through in a lot of different ways, through filmic techniques, through story ideas, through the perspectives given. It's just a smart show. It makes me excited, right? Because if we're seeing this thing as three separate cores, it means we're going to expand scope out even more come core 3, come whatever happens at the end of this core. So we'll see. I remember. True. The Eggman. Oh. Oh, he has a rose seal like a normal rose seal. I'm guessing he'll probably step in at fight now that you've said that, but again, neither here nor there. Okay. Okay, the student council is actually doing some research. That's good. Ordinary students. This shouldn't be hard to figure out. Like, they all went to the same place. Well, that's like some Monogatari shit in the back. I don't think so. That is true, though. What is the train idea? That's interesting. Yeah. But what was the point? Okay. Is Choo Choo somewhere near the hall? Ominous. That was almost horror movie. He has been gassy these last few episodes for sure. Oh, that's terrible. Of course he was. That would have hurt. Mousetrap's interesting, though. You're like the most popular person in the school. Sorgi. Very true. Astute, Utena. Don't go down there, it's scary. Don't go down there, it's scary. Hmm. I'm not very smart. Okay. Ah, jump scare. Okay. Sure. Okay. Hmm. How long ago? Yeah, go talk to Arkio. That'll be good. Oh, hey. Huh. Deal. What's going on there? We had a deal? Well, that's back in the day then. Hmm. Oh, that's very direct. Oh, don't tell Saionji. This is law, bro. Hmm. You mean this? I don't know. Hmm. Okay. At the time. This is very Evangelion. If you know, you know. Wow, woman. Tokiko. Um, yeah, obviously very, by the numbers right now. Look at the black cat. But it's going to become emotional around her, maybe. What are these arrows? That's so funny. It's like it's analyzing it for me. Now there's two. What, the T? Huh. Hmm. I'm lost. I'm very happy I'm going to go back through this episode again. Huh. Ooh. Okay, I'm excusing you. Rose tea? Oh, Mamiya. Okay. Interesting. And where was Anchi at the start of the episode, right? Wow. Okay. This timeline is confusing me, everybody. Okay. A position of authority, you reckon? Okay. As I said before, I'm very happy I'm going through this twice. This feels it's almost some Monogatari levels of yap where I just like don't quite get it yet and I'm trying to like keep up. I'm guessing it'll all click here at some moment. Whoa. Whoa. Should we be doing that? Interesting. Okay, you're very sick. Gotcha. Hmm. Okay, computer boy. No, no one. Whoa. Just agree. Oh, that's a great shot. Up until today. Hey, yo. Well, he's got some inspiration now. You know who? I don't. I'm not in the know. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that the sick child should be out here, but anyway. Oh, okay. Eternity, huh? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sure. The pictures on the wall and mirroring the elevator kind of interesting. Still got that same lipstick stain on the tea glass. Teacup. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you the end of the world? Okay. Wow. Okay. Now, my timeline's a little bit weird, but that looked like Archeo, but it's not, because I think the timeline's weird. So is that somebody above, who hands out letters with a rose seal on them, like the end of the world? That would make sense to me. Black Rose? Hey, yo. Whoa. Okay. Um, okay. Um, okay. What happened? What does any of that mean? Did you do this? Hey, yo. Mamiya. Yeah. Okay. Okay. This is blowing my mind. What is? I really like the lighting. I'll say that. That's a tangible thing I could say about it. Now we're back in present day, are we? Yes, indeed. Okay. 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 Well, I know who you two are. Shadow Girls. Why? Hello, robot. Robots are eternal. They don't die. Yeah, I know. Okay. 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 I think I understand what's going on there and who the robot may be in our little metaphor. Okay, thoughts? Okay. Okay. What does that mean? What does that mean? Whoa. Well, you're not in the know. What was that meant to mean? I don't know what the fuck just happened. Well, I kind of do. Okay. I was right about the timing being really weird everywhere, right? Because before people talk about this Nomura Memorial Hall stuff, they were talking about it like, oh yeah, that was a tragedy that happened ages ago. And I'm like, well, that's clearly Mikage, and he looks the same. And Akio's here. That's weird. And Mamiya's maybe aged a little bit, but not much. But what was her name? The lady in this episode whose name's escaping me. She's clearly aged. She went out of the school. She went out into the real world and has aged as a result. Something talking about something eternal, something robots, something. You get the picture, right? It makes the Akio and all these lines about eternal youth and valuing something like that a lot more direct. Thoroughly interesting episode that I'm looking forward to watching through again and trying to figure out. What's the next thing we're doing? Well, we picked a Black Rose. I'm imagining we're doing... I probably shouldn't watch this. We're probably doing something with somebody getting stabbed with a Black Rose and fighting Utena. It's heavily telegraphed that Mikage is going to be the next one to duel Utena, and this may end up poorly for Utena, because Mikage is serious business. He's like... Mikage is to this second arc as Toga is to the first arc, kind of this big bad pulling the strings. And, of course, what have we said about Utena these last few episodes? She's very naive, so that would tell me that she's not ready for something like this. Something like this coming out of nowhere could be a surprise, and, I don't know, there could be some extra plans at play there. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to bring up that episode now and we'll go through it again and see what we think. So yeah, that was episode, what was it, 22? That sounds right. Episode 22 of I was going to say Evangelion because that's my next point, but Utena, we're back. It's Utena. I'm going insane. Evangelion, right, has an episode 21, that goes into some revelatory stuff about some characters that we've seen a lot in the show and explains a lot of things about them. This felt like maybe half of that episode, right? Where, hey, that episode in Evangelion pretty much puts a lot of the cards on the table, right? About what has happened, who was where, what are the motivations for certain people that were mysterious up to this point, why do certain people feel certain ways about certain things. I'm being less spoilery, but you know what I mean, right? This feels kind of similar, this kind of... Mikage's almost like Gendo Akari in a lot of ways. He's just kind of standing above everyone, just like, you know, plotting, scheming, doing his own little thing. The audience and a lot of the people on the team don't get to see what he sees all the time. He has some trusted generals with him, but other than that, we don't really see a lot. Very similar vibe with Mikage. And this is seeing behind the curtain a little bit, seeing what makes that man the way he is, as well as revealing some supernatural twists to what's been going on with the school and certain people at the school. Why don't certain people age, right? Well, that's a larger conversation overall as to, hey, what does it mean if you're not aging past a high school, if you're chilling around high school still, right? When I don't know what the timeline's like, but I'm going to imagine it's maybe 10 years, maybe more. I don't know. I really don't. That these characters have been here. It was enough time for the Nomura Memorial Hall to burn down and for it to be rebuilt and for people to forget about a lot of the circumstances. So that's a pretty long time. On top of that, we have some really, really interesting techniques this episode. Some fourth wall breaking stuff, like somebody is pre-analyzing stuff. Like, hey, I'm going to circle certain things, I'm going to point to certain things, I'm going to really, really point at certain things that are important, that are the pieces of information you should take from this episode. Almost like somebody is teaching me a lecture on Utena as I'm watching it, right? Like, hey, this is interesting. This is interesting. This is interesting. And normally I'm the one to be doing that. So I feel like they've kind of taken my shine a little bit. But it's still very interesting and very helpful as well. I don't know, I'm a little bit lost. I want to go back through it and just try to figure out the story, I think. Like, obviously, okay, I know the nuts and bolts of it. Like, Mikage's like this smart guy, or Professor Nomura, I guess I should say, is like this pretty smart guy and is pretty cold and calculating until this lady comes into his life, kind of sent from kind of a bureaucratic institution somewhere else. Hey, now we're learning a little bit more about Mamiya and the roses and why you sick, and we're still missing chapters, right? So we go to like here, and oh yeah, cool, that's all well and good. We go out, we see the coffin, the guy with the coffin in the hallway. Where was he? This guy. So what's going on there? That's a little bit weird. Clearly we know what the coffins are about, but then we basically just skip to, everything's on fire, and apparently Mamiya is responsible. Odd. So again, almost in like Full Metal Alchemist terms, it's like, equivalent exchange of life is part of the reason why there's so much eternity and eternal youth with these characters, is that they're feeding off some kind of energy from the burning of these corpses. Is this anything? Like taking on literally the life force of all these people below? Even on a, metaphorical level, a thematic level, even if not literal? Maybe. Yeah, but there's a gap here as to where do we figure all this out? Or are we never going to figure all it out? And is it all just a bit weird? And I'm thinking this is purposeful. She's got like wrinkles. She's eyes look a little bit more weary. She looks like she's well into her 30s, 40s even. Obviously very different to Professor Nomura at the same time. Like, you would see visible signs of age. This is one of the first characters that we've seen in Utena that actually has aged as well, other than the teachers, I guess. So that's kind of interesting. We never see real adults, which I think is purposeful. Let's go back to the start. I'm kind of talking in circles. I really liked the episode. I think it will shine a lot more on rewatches when I get things a lot more. Because for right now, I'm just a little bit lost, and that's okay. I'm allowed to be a little bit lost. It's my first time, damn it. We start the episode by peering at Akio talking to the prince again. Listen, Akio is associated with the end of the world somehow, right? Because he's out here handing, like rose seal envelopes and whatever. There's also some dialogue very early in the flashback about we don't know what they're doing over there, but they all wear the rose seals or something. So we'll reread that and have another look. Is this here similar to what was happening before? Does this have something to do with that? It almost seemed like there were like dual research teams working on different things. Was one research team working on whatever the fuck this is? I don't know. And then very quick imagery here, right? So we see that. We wake up. We see fucking the hourglass with no sand in it. What does that mean? With roses on it. It's actually a pretty cool little piece as well. Just, yeah, remember the cups that fucking Kozue and Mickey had? Very similar. Like, just, there's a lot of really, I guess, novel designs of random stuff in this show that just impressed the shit out of me, really. Like, they didn't need to go that hard. I guess this is Akio thinking on the black roses, right? Because, again, he knows a lot more about this. Even they're down to their last flower. So, hey, they tried a lot of things with the student council. None of them have worked yet. Maybe Mikage needs to throw his hat in the ring at some point. Will he eventually step in and fight? Remember, I gave him the rose seal? I think that's the implication, right? Akio gave him the rose seal. So we know two things for certain, right? We know that Akio hasn't aged, and we know that Professor Nomura, aka Mikage, hasn't aged. And Mamiya's kind of not aged, right? I think Mamiya's slightly older. I'd like to think so, because Mamiya's very young during this flashback stuff. Did they get their so-called eternity, their so-called almost immortality, their anti-aging technology Did they get that from the same place or two different sources? That's another question. The episode starts with Anchi watering some roses as well. Kind of brings the episode full circle by the very end when we see Mikage watching these two talking in the rose garden as well. It also links Mamiya and Anchi, very much so, because they're both watering flowers during the episode. Very cool, if, their character designs went a dead giveaway as well. So what's the go with... I need to get her name. It was like Chi something. Tokiko. Cheetah Tokiko, right? So one of the first things I'll note is that I don't believe you two, Mamiya and you, share the same names. Correct me if I'm wrong. My point is you're white. And Mamiya has a darker complexion of skin. Are you really siblings, is my question. What happened there? That's another... This is opening a can of worms, for sure. Either way, now the student council have finally pulled their finger out. I think this is mainly predicated on Nanami knowing that Torga has now been targeted, right? As soon as Torga starts getting targeted, Nanami's actually like, oh shit, we better actually have a go here and try to figure this shit out, because they're targeting my beloved. I don't care about the rest of the student council members, that's neither here nor there. Or myself, for that matter. It's all about Torga. So yeah, we see everybody acting badass, doing some research, talking about the Black Rose Society that's, targeting the student council, sending all these ordinary people, I think the tone is. Yeah, manipulating ordinary students and making them duel Tenjo Utena one after another. What is their plan? Jury, almost in an act of kind of petty revenge here, kind of hits that button on Torga. Are you now concerned because your friends and even Torga have been targeted? It's like, well, Jury, if you know that and your information network is that good, why haven't you fucking figured it out yet? Snake. Then we have the train idea. I think it's simply something that's loud in the background that's blocking them from effectively communicating with each other, right? There's a large amount of white noise in the environment that's stopping them from figuring this thing out. They can't quite see eye to eye with each other. They can't quite hear each other's points very well. We can't quite figure it out yet. That's what's meant to be getting across with the train metaphor, I think. Again, we did this in Monogatari a lot. Train tracks, crossroads, choices, one going one way, one going another way. There is an impasse. We can't quite figure out what choice we want to make. Maybe our path and the Black Rose path are two paths that are going to intersect at some point. A lot of little metaphor-y fun details there. Thank you, Monogatari. Very cool. The student council have but one clue. There are some rose seals involved, and the only people that are supposed to have rose seals must be the end of the world. Does that mean the end of the world is backing this now, this Mikage stuff? Yeah, Nanami's spitting facts here, right? As that train noise is blaring up, blocking all the communication, right? It has to be someone within this academy. It has to be somebody with backing from the end of the world if they have all these rose seals, right? Then what gives? What's going on there? And again, as Utena likes to do as a show, you say a lead-on question to end one scene and then immediately take the audience to the answer, right? It has to be someone in this academy, somebody with access to rose seals. Head over to Nomura Memorial Hall, and hey, there's Mikage. Standing almost in a horror movie sense at the top of the staircase, right? Right there. This is almost very scarily framed. It's like he's, blocking an exit from us visually. I don't know. I think this is sinister vibes. Mikage here also says, hey, you, when he sees Utena, right? This is a surprise. I didn't expect to see you here. So yeah, we were chasing after Choo-Choo. If I didn't make that clear enough, he was caught in a mousetrap in the kitchen. Now again, Choo-Choo is metaphorically Anchi in a lot of ways. Stuck in a trap. I found him in pain somewhere. Anything, something, I don't know. I think that is a weird thing to say otherwise. So Anchi is trapped somewhere? She's definitely trapped at the end of the episode where Utena keeps going, hey, why don't you just not listen? But I'm the Rose Bride, I have to do this. Doesn't that sound kind of like a trap? Like you're stuck between two places? Weird. I don't understand. What does Akio have to do with that? Now that we know he's kind of involved here as well, and has kind of an eternal youth thing going on, and he's way older, and he's still dating high schoolers? I don't know, bro. I don't know about Akio. Well, again, Mikage's bad vibes, because he's got his hands all over Mamiya as well. We've seen it in previous scenes, right? Isn't that weird coming from somebody who was older back in the day, who has gained some kind of eternal youth in some way, paused aging, something like that, to be really handsy with somebody they had a power dynamic over at some point. Like, that's bad as well. I don't think these guys are like good guys or something. I think they may be the villains. So this is Mikage Soji. We got a last name there as well. You're the genius high schooler who runs the Mikage seminar, and Utena is being invited to join the seminar, right? Hey, you should come along, blah, 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 blah. We take exceptional students such as you. We seek out people with unique personalities, because Utena's all sheepish because she's not very book smart. But no, that's not why we want you there. It's somebody with a unique personality. Hardy, hardy, ha. The chosen ones. We want the chosen ones on our side, in our seminar. You're more than welcome to come in and look around. This building is where you hold the seminar, right? Which is Nomura Memorial Hall, and then we jump off into our flashback, because we start to ask some questions here. And Mikage isn't lying here, right? They did die in a cave-in, but it was based on a fire. There was a fire at the hall, a fire that seemingly was deliberately lit, and that resulted in all of their deaths. You sacrificed them for your greater good. So kind of what I was saying is right. They're seemingly the boys that are in the coffins that the creepy shadow guy was pushing around. So I don't know. Also, Mikage's framing this like, hey, long ago there was a professor called Professor Nomura, not I am literally Professor Nomura. Like, hey, it wasn't called Nomura Memorial Hall back then. It was probably just the hall, right? So he's been around long enough for this building to pass into legend and gain another name. So then we have a look around a very creepy, like a few shots and punctuated with droplets, right? Droplets of water falling, right? The empty hall. There's no students around. There's no other people here. They've all been killed, right? As we saw in the flashback, it was hustling and bustling, basically at all times. Now it's suspiciously empty. Then I love this shot here. Kind of Mikage looks up. It's you, right? We see the letter drop. We see a droplet fall immediately from that kind of letter falling. The letter with the rose seal, probably from the end of the world, dropping onto the rose there. And we get this. All I did was make a deal with you, right? And he's talking to Akio right now. It's pretty clear, right? I have no obligation to follow your orders. That is our contract. Ever since that time. Huh. Okay. Weird. What does that mean? So this is current day, and this is our lead into the flashback, right? Mikage's standing here. Is there a shot of Akio as well that we can say? Yes. I really like this as well. We can see the picture of Mamiya there. It's kind of behind my cam, but never mind. So you two know some shit. There was an agreement made at the time. So maybe you two are kind of in cahoots in a weird way. And this letter must have some kind of new order in it, right? Some kind of obligation that they would like Mikage to now follow. But he is refusing to do so ever since that time. That time at the very end was when Akio dropped off the rose seal into his little mug, into his little teacup that had her kiss stain on it, right? Kiss stain? Lipstick stain. That's better. So, yeah, there must have been some kind of mutual agreement at that time for what they were going to do. And then we jump into the flashback. One of the first things we'll see in the flashback is that we start calling Mikage Professor Nomura. And he's got some fancy glasses on, same voice actor, same hairdo. I think at the very end of the episode, we have Tokiko calling you Professor Nomura, so that's pretty much confirmed, I think, that Mikage and Professor Nomura are the same guy. He's talking to a high school student here, and he says, hey, you don't have to do the professor stuff, we're not that far apart in age, which implies, hey, that maybe you're early 20s, something like that. And you're like posing as a high schooler now? Question mark? Because Mikage's still a student, correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, he's a genius level high schooler. Well, he's only a genius level high schooler because he's lived longer. That's no fair. And he was already pretty smart to begin with. Apparently with Nomura's help here, they've really gotten things off of the ground. Whatever their plan is right now, Nomura has helped, right? He's a genius, right? Okay, so interesting. I believe we have a contract from somebody to do this research. Okay. Because there's a third party, right? Like, I didn't think they'd treat it with such secrecy. They treat us as parts in a machine. Machine? Robot? Anyway. Is there a third party here that is kind of saying, hey, can you guys research this? Or maybe not. Didn't you agree to that in the contract with the Academy? So didn't you agree to secrecy when you started researching here? Because we're looking at some weird shit. But the secrecy goes so far as they don't even know what the next section next to us is researching, right? Rumors say it's the power to revolutionize the world. Okay, that would put Akio pretty clearly in their camp, I think, right? Like power to revolutionize the world. And some research on attaining eternity. And Professor Nomura, even at this time, isn't privy to any of the things that they're doing. Even I know nothing beyond the rumors. And he doesn't really care to know, but he is curious about the rings that they all wear on their left ring fingers. They don't have a particular meaning, they're just the latest fashion. Okay, I'm very confused. Okay. There is a team next to Nomura's team right now that is researching the power to revolutionize the world and something eternal, right? Which seems like what he's researching later on anyway. Like a very similar thing. Is he brought onto the team later on in the episode? Maybe. Also, I think all the boys just wear these rose rings. There's no other deeper meaning to it yet, I think. I don't know. But everyone's wearing them is the point. And we have all the black rose seals, right, from the people that have died? Question mark? So when they die, it turns black, and then those are the black rings we've been using for all the people in this arc so far? Is that anything? Oh, and then we have a different conversation taking place. Well, that's Nomura, but he doesn't know anything. What a sucker. But yet, you know who vouches for his intelligence. So this is almost that secondary research team that is researching the power to revolutionize the world, talking about him in the third person, right? And that means that you know who is part of this team and asking them to do it, right? He's the leader. You know who implies some kind of big secret person. And they're a little bit critical of Professor Nomura at the moment. You know, he's very dry in his research papers. People who pretend not to care about anything lack experience. He's very robotic in his nature. He's just kind of regurgitating facts. It's kind of that old art versus science adage, right? He's very dry. He doesn't have an emotional connection to any of it. As a result, what does any of that mean? Let him put on airs, that man is basically a computer, and Nomura at this moment agrees. Like, I'm even more computer than man. I'm not in touch with my emotions right now, in a way that potentially I'm in touch with my emotions later on, as I'm Mikage later on. Oh, even then, okay, sure. Weird. So this person here, and we see it flash for a moment, is one of the coffins. He's already pushing one of the coffins around, right? And what Nomura is currently tasked with wasn't progressing as it should, right? But he didn't really care. But again, I don't really care. Hey, in walks beautiful woman bathed in sunlight that may change my mind on these things. I think part of the idea here is that you like her, correct? You like Cheetah Tokiko? And that motivates you somewhat? And then seeing Akio at the very end changes that? Maybe? It makes you go down a darker path? Question mark? I don't know. Because in the current day, it seems like you like Mamiya a whole lot. We see the hourglass there again, like a ticking time bomb. Something's going to happen at the end of the episode that we're forewarning against. Maybe the empty hourglass at the very start is like, hey, this thing has already happened. I'm talking about the fire, of course. Like this is a countdown to doom. Or is this somebody's time running out to make a decision on certain things? Is life slipping away from them? They don't no longer have anything eternal. Lots of things you could take there. And this is the scene that confuses me. You will notice the big arrow here pointing to the black cat, right? Well, black's interesting because, you know, black roses, black rose seals, cool. But there is one singular black cat there. What do you normally say about a black cat? They're bad luck. They're ominous. They bring with them disaster. But they're also kind of outcasts, right? It's very interesting that we see a family of black cats, 2 larger ones and a smaller one later on. 3 outsiders potentially. I'm alluding to maybe Cheetah, Nomura, and Mamiya, I think. They're also pointing at the T. Look at the T here. We're pointing at it, as well as the butterfly there on the wall, which will turn into a leaf at some point. I think it's also some kind of caterpillar at some point. So, like, that's some of the fucking elevator stuff. Does this mean this interaction right now is very surface level between these two and gets deeper as we go on? Yeah, there was only one person in frame before. It was Nomura. He was in frame, and the one black cat was there. Now we have 2 of these people in frame, and 2 black cats are there. And we're continuing to point it out, of course. So, you know, associating these 2 with black cats. Okay, I know nothing about brewing tea, but this is interesting. I actually don't even like tea at all. I kind of despise it. But she clearly brewed the tea, and the tea was too strong, right? She set an hourglass, the hourglass that we saw before, that kind of symbol of eternity, right? like set it to a timer that, hey, this is as long as I'm going to put the certain element in the tea to make it taste like tea. You'd probably say the tea in the tea to make it the tea. Am I making any sense? I don't know. She asks the question here, I wonder, is it possible for an hourglass to run slow? I wonder if it's possible for time to slow down for certain people, for certain things. Did I potentially leave something in the tea too long that made it too strong? Again, apply that to the rest of the episode as you would like to. Now, they're all working on the same research, but I guess Nomura isn't asking questions at the moment. That's what that dialogue before is about. I wasn't interested in what I was researching, I was merely robotically researching it. There's also some interesting lines here that I should probably go back to. Genius is something that is divine, I think she says. Yeah. Interesting. Very, very interesting. And she's okay, so where are you from again? Where's Cheetah from? Oh, she's the inspector. Okay. So she's been sent from the board of directors, the people that are funding this research, to make sure that it's going better. We had the line of dialogue here before where Nomura says, hey, if the research is done or it isn't done or it's not progressing, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just doing my thing here. He needs some kind of motivation to make him a little bit more motivated as to what he's working on, right? And again, based on the framing, he definitely cares for you, for sure. And then it's like, hey, I know you're not the type to take kind of orders from anybody. Genius is divine, it's spontaneous, it's something that just comes. It doesn't happen on demand all the time. That is almost something spiritual, very opposite to the computer type stuff that Nomura describes himself as, right? In that way, he says that he isn't a genius, he isn't spontaneous, he is simply a computer doing what he needs to do. Well, then if you're not a genius, why are you working on this assignment then? Apparently purely for the business reasons. He's in it for the money, right? That's very similar to the first time we saw Mikage, and he was kind of just completing random business deals for random chums, and he got given checks, but he kind of pushed the checks away. He didn't really care about the money. He cared about something else at that point. So he's kind of changed, right, from what he is now to what he is in the current day. And he's kind of arguing his point here. Hey, I think we're doing more than what the contract even says right now. I think we're working too hard. I've got 100 boys under me in this particular association, right? They're all working hard on this. We could have been working on other stuff. Clearly the contract isn't good enough for what we're researching at the moment. They say that it's research on the power of eternity, power to revolutionize the world, something of the such, and seems to scoff at the idea, seems to think it's potentially impossible, seems to like, hey, I don't care if we're researching this and we're going nowhere because I don't believe that the research is possible. Yeah, we're trying to, again, attain something impossible, like a perpetual motion machine. We're going to halt one of life's realities, right? We're going to break the laws of the universe. In that way, potentially people should be humbly grateful for what God grants them. But again, this hits a lot harder for somebody like you, right? Who is very much aware of the passage of time and how it is affecting the people around you. Right? It comes across as condescending when somebody tells you that people should just humbly take what God grants for them when my sibling is literally dying. Speak of the devil, we hear some kind of commotion in the next room, and we hear the name Mamiya. And of course, the audience knows who that is, and we put two and two together. We're like, oh, right. So again, if we're following the episode as we're following it, Mamiya is like the representation of the change in Nomura, right? The change from this cold, calculating, business-minded dude to somebody that gives a fuck about something, to somebody that believes in something, believes in the impossible, potentially, to try to fix things like this, and the person by the very end of it that makes bad decisions, potentially, to make this happen. So there is a change, there is a metamorphosis for you, potentially symbolized by the butterfly and that kind of thing, that takes place across this episode. We're also here pointing out the little lipstick stain on the teacup, which comes back at the very end of the episode, a symbol of romantic desire? You see like a secondhand kiss type dealy here, right? Because you're romantically interested in Cheetah, at least somewhat, right? We see the biggest arrow of all here pointing towards Mamiya and Cheetah, right? As Mamiya comes out to water the garden, even though they were told to rest in bed for the day. We can infer some things here. You're supposed to be in bed, which means you're sick, you're bedridden, blah, 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 blah. You're also out here watering roses, which links you to Anshi in some way. which we're still figuring out. This episode's kind of gorgeous too. I love the colors here, and I'll comment on it later on, even in a contrast maybe, right? Okay, this is great. This is a cold calculating blue. This is an emotionless blue. This is and the only time we see like any real color is in these roses, right? In the flowers, the representation of Mamiya, right? And this little relationship. When we pan back over to you, there's less color. This is contrasted, of course, by the end of the episode where there's this fiery, passionate color, right? When Nomura makes the choice that he makes. And the fire ensues from there, and he's willing to put everything on the line, even his morals, even some kind of, there's a religious kind of theme to this episode as well, damn himself to make this decision to change things. So there's a small meeting here between Chida Tokiko's little brother, Mamiya, and Professor Nomura, who's later known as Mikage. I want to comment on it again. You look, I'm going to say, you almost look like Suwabuki right now. I wouldn't be surprised if you're like 12, something like that. I think you're a little bit older later on, maybe similar to Utena's age, which is a little bit more like 14, 15. Correct me if I'm wrong. So time has passed somewhat for you, but not as much as it should have. You're also clearly like a fucking basement dweller. And Chida is under the impression that Mamiya died somewhere along the way, or isn't here anymore. You're hiding from your sister by the very end. Mamiya here says that he's interested in Nomura and his research, read the theses, but Nomura is, putting on his computer robotic type persona, trying to push it away. And apparently Nomura is the first person, Mamiya is essentially a fan right now, a fan of Nomura's work. The kicker there just before the ad break is that Mamiya says that Chida only went to this academy to see you specifically, right? Which may give Nomura the understanding that he's somewhat special in her eyes in some ways. I don't know. Again, Mamiya is unwell, right? Chida gives him injections to make him sleep because he won't sleep by himself. We're just trying to make sure that he's okay, that he's settled down and he's going to have a nice rest of his life. Because apparently he doesn't have long left. It may even be terminal, right? It's all for Mamiya's sake that I've involved myself in this. There's nothing left but to accept there is no hope, or so the doctors tell me. But if you guys could do that research, I'm still holding on to a little bit of hope that maybe you can make him eternal or whatever, right? Power to revolutionize the world with some kind of eternalness thing? That would make sense. But apparently Nomura says here that that has nothing to do with the research, that it wouldn't help anyway. But maybe I could attain eternity for him. I also really like this shot. There's a separation here between Chida and Nomura. Why am I forgetting their names so much? I'm not very smart like that. You only see him through one side of the mirror, where we see both sides of her. We're only seeing I'm only seeing this as a logical and an emotional side, right? And later on, when we see the tears start falling, it becomes more pronounced, right? Like, you're only looking at this one way, using your computer brain, where you're seeing both sides of this. One, the practical side, where the doctors say there is no hope, but the other side, your emotional side, your hopeful side, which thinks that maybe this research could help. Even similarly here, walks away from the mirror, we still don't get to see this other side. Nomura comments here that this is the first time he's seen someone cry. It's the first time he's seen an emotional reaction like that. It's probably having some kind of effect. We ask the question here, is there someone in your life who's important to you, Professor Nomura? Or is it perhaps impossible for someone lauded as a genius to love another? And he looks her in the fucking eye and says, indeed, maybe it is impossible for me to love. Definitely not current day Mikage. I don't think he believes that anymore. Another pretty obvious one here, but we see a dead tree here that he's standing next to. No life, no lushness, none of that stuff, right? Two-tone in the color scheme. Contrast that with the garden that Mamiya represented before, right? The roses, that kind of thing. I was dead and withered at one point, but now I'm fully obsessed with the roses and the garden and stuff. I've changed my tact. Metamorphosis, right? But ever since that interaction, Professor Nomura has been very interested in the project, right? I don't know who this fucking sassy guy is here, but sure. And yeah, the rest of the people notice that, hey, he's trying harder now, he's giving more of a shit. Ever since they sent that inspector, he's been at the top of his game, right? He's potentially being motivated by your plight to try harder. Well, you know who never makes a pointless move, so potentially this was a chess move by somebody above, potentially the end of the world, or whatever the hell, to put this person here to motivate Nomura, right? We see a lot of this. We see a lot of people pushing around coffins and that kind of thing, right? Just in general. As soon as we talk about, you know who or whatever, right? We normally see someone pushing a coffin. Weird. I don't know. Again, as I said before, contrasting this to the dead tree from before, there has been a change in Professor Nomura. But apparently Professor Nomura is still in the dark about what all this means. He still doesn't really know what he's doing, so sure. This is clearly a little bit of a time skip. You've continued researching. You're still very sick. You probably shouldn't be sitting in the garden when it's cold outside, considering there's snow around. Apparently these two have the house all alone after Cheetah's called away from the board of directors. And Nomura says that he's here to see you. And that doesn't matter. And Mamiya's made some little sugar preserved roses for him to eat. Nice little sweet treat. Of course, the rose stuff is, indicative. I made you a little rose to eat. I'm feeding you roses, white roses, as opposed to the black roses we make later on. We've also dried out flowers here because my sister doesn't like to see flowers that are stricken with age. She is against aging. She is aware of the passage of time because as time progresses, you get closer and closer to what I'm guessing is an inevitable death. Gets even more direct here. Like this, when they're dry preserved, even short-lived flowers can last a little bit longer. Are we trying to dry preserve a flower right now with what we're researching? Potentially. But I wonder if the flowers are happy being forced to go on. Eternity does not exist in this world, says little Mamiya here. Yet there is still some beauty in the pursuit of the eternal. Interesting. You change your tune somewhere along the way, right? Because you seemingly are on board with what Nomura is doing. Okay. Nomura asks here, don't you expect what we're researching, me and your sister, don't you expect that to work? He doesn't answer the question. He just says, I respect you too. I don't think you think it's going to work. So you may think that eternity doesn't exist, right? It's not pursuable. But as you get that hope that it actually is, you change your tune. Also here are the black flowers we're talking about, the black roses. Are they the dry preserved ones? Okay, a representation of the eternal, sure. Now here, we're pointing out the leaf as opposed to the butterfly, right? So the butterfly is surface level depth, right? It's surface level trauma, right? If we think about the caterpillar as deeper trauma, right? As we go deeper, we go back through that metamorphosis, right, to earlier. What do the caterpillars eat? They eat leaves. So is this anything? Probably. Somebody smarter than me that has watched the show can probably talk to it better. The last line there that Mamiya says is to make sure that you tell my sister that you care about me, right? Because that'll be an important thing later on. So then we have Nomura working hard on this equation, but can't quite find the answer. We see the lipstick on the glass, right? That's there. So Cheetah must have been in this room at some point trying to figure it out as well and has kind of stepped out for a second. Then we have Akio walk in, right? Says that, can you still not solve that equation? And places a little letter on the table, right? At first, Nomura is pretty prickly, says that outsiders aren't allowed, but apparently this is no outsider at all. You indeed are the outsider, Nomura, not me. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just Akio, right? Maybe? I don't know. I'm guessing it's Akio, right? Apparently in that letter is the first step that will bring into motion the plan to revolutionize the world. Nomura reads it and is incredulous, says it's ridiculous. How can you expect anyone to do this? And then hands over the ring to Nomura, right? Isn't that the ring that everyone wears? Yo, you know what it says in the letter? In the letter it says, hey, fucking kill everybody. We're gonna harness their fucking life power. That's what's going to happen. So everyone wears these rings, and those rings turned sour at a certain point. They turned black when they died, because their power was... The rings were draining their power or something. That's what I'm saying. What does that imply about the modern day rose seal? Is it going to, take everyone's power as well, take all their life and give it to somebody else? Is it some kind of energy funneling system? Is this anything? Am I talking gobbledygook? I don't know. So then, hey, Akio's here with the rose seal. Here's rose seal. I'm going to give this to you, right? It's actually, when you wear this, you enter a contract with me, right? Similar to all the other 100 boys here that are all wearing rose seals as well. They're all in personal contracts with me. Now, great. This is pretty much confirmed now. Okay. Besides that, even if I do what it says that I need to do in the letter, right? Something that's ridiculous, probably kill all the boys. If I do that, right? And attain eternity that way, it still won't make her happy, which is my overall goal. That's why I've been motivated this time. The first time I saw her cry, right? One of the first times I felt like real emotion. First times I saw anybody cry, for that record. I felt motivated to do this to make her happier, to make her situation better, and I also care for Mamiya, right? But if I need to kill 100 people to do so, right, that won't make her happy. That goes against my goals anyway, which makes the scene in a second where she's kissing Akio. That makes that very interesting. It's almost like, fuck it, I don't care anymore. Let's burn it all down. Interesting. So he says her. Akio goes, her, right? And we see him here. That's got to be Akio, right? And says the very pointed line here. Should you desire eternity, put it on your finger. Your one choice is to revolutionize the world. A path has been made ready for you. Those classic lines that he's given to everybody else were given to Professor Nomura back in the day. A path has been made for you. It's ready to go as another coffin passes the door. So then, hey, he's kind of like following this coffin, right? Following this coffin getting pushed around as he sees, right? The door's open. This is almost his hallway to his elevator, right? To when he goes crazy and does the black rose thing, right? Yeah, bro. Literally. We like pass a black rose here on the ground. Yeah, right there. So then, yeah. Yo, this is his little journey. This is his elevator journey right now. This is him digging deeper and making a bad moral decision. Because then he goes through this door, has a little look. We hear the kind of build-up of tension in this beeping sound. And we see these two. This arrow that's been pointing this entire time. Almost in a very robotic way, in a very computerish way. This looks like a cursor, like my cursor just there, right? Hey, look at these two smooching. That is the point of this scene that you're supposed to see. I'm getting, C-worded right now, and then turns around, turns away from that, and sees the coffins. And then makes his decision. We start to hear that kind of ominous tune that played whenever we were at the very bottom of the elevator in the Nomura Hall. He goes back, looks at the seal, and then everything's on fire. And we skip some stuff here. We skip you explaining things to you and everything else, right? Cheetah gets word of this and goes straight to Mamiya and says, is the rumor true? Were you behind this? So Mamiya was the one to put it into action. Weird. Okay, cool. But obviously being aided by Nomura as well, because Nomura gave you the knowledge that that's what you were supposed to do next if you wanted to attain eternity. And Nomura explains here, right? Because Cheetah's heartbroken. How could you do this? They had a contract. Ancient creatures died and became fossil fuels, like coal and petroleum. Without that sacrifice, our present civilization of energy would not exist. In a very similar way, we're sacrificing all these kids' life energy to perpetuate our energy now, right? And we're gonna become kind of immortal. Such sacrifices are always called for, says Nomura. He's definitely changed his tune since he saw you smooching with Akio, right? Because Akio said like this exact same thing and you were very much against it. You're like, this isn't the point of anything. And now you don't even care what you think anymore. Apparently this is the first step in the job that you are advancing, Cheetah, right? Soon we'll open the path to eternity from this academy. This will spread out. This will become a known thing. This research will spread. Talking about, I guess, the arc overall again, like, literally, okay, we've got a lot of powerful special characters trampling on side characters, unimportant characters, status quo characters, all this other stuff, right? Like, and making themselves stronger in the process. Compare this to the previous episode with Nanami, right? Where Nanami is relying on the, I guess, pursuits of the three below her to make her better and be able to throw these parties and do all this other stuff, right? In a pretty dark, similar way, Nomura here is sacrificing the lower class, everyone else below him, the people that trusted him, in order to power his own selfish need at the moment, which is eternity for Mamiya himself and also Akio by proxy, which is weird. And yeah, it doesn't show any remorse in this regard. We can see the two are very different now, very differently colored. Really like the lighting here, really do, especially in contrast to the scenes before, how it demonstrates a difference in opinion between these two characters as well. Yeah. Cool. And here we are, Mikage stepping forward, wishing to attain eternity. Now this brings into context what he was explaining to Saionji, because he's all about attaining eternity, right? We may call him a clown, but we've got a very similar motivation. Yeah, so then the hall's burning down, Cheetah is breaking down as a result, And Mamiya is just very confused. We are brought back to the present day. We have Mikage there thinking about this one final moment where she kind of just looked at him like, hey, like it kind of burns in his mind. Did I do the right thing, you know? But then looks to the picture on his little thing, right? Hey, if it made Mamiya better, isn't that fine? Now, granted, you say a lot of weird things about Mamiya, which aren't great. Groomer? Maybe. So that's not like a feel-good thing, I don't think, right? Almost to the point now where Cheetah doesn't know where Mamiya is? Is that the implication as well? Yeah, because here's Cheetah. I really like this shot as well. Beautiful. Look at the clouds there. Great, kind of brings your focus into the center of the frame where she appears, where she puts a bouquet of roses on the ground. You would have to imagine it's some kind of gravesite, probably the memorial for the tragedy. Cheetah then walks through the school and passes Mikage, right? She briefly turns her head. Mikage takes no notice of her anymore. She's grown up. Mikage almost doesn't recognize her anymore. And we see her eyes, and I've talked about this before, slightly wrinkled. She's well older than Mikage at this point. He almost looks like he's aging backwards. He looks younger. Maybe it's just the John Lennon glasses, I don't know. And instead of Utena, we have Cheetah experiencing the Shadow Girl segment. It's also very interesting later on when we contrast Cheetah and Utena. Now, this Shadow Girl segment, right? This is pretty direct. This robot here represents Nomura, or Mikage, depending on your little preference there. It's finished, an all-purpose robot built from the very essence of science. The robot does not age. The robot does not tire. Well, not aging is pretty direct as well, considering that's what eternity is all about. And this robot catches monkeys. And this robot here is superior to humans, right? So here's my thought as well, right? We're talking about the emotional side and the, I guess, robotic side of a character like Nomura. This is what happens when somebody that doesn't really give a fuck about anybody around him, about the sacrifices and the emotions and that kind of thing, gets into a situation where they need to make a large ethical choice. And he makes the wrong choice. He may think he's superior to humans, but that's only in so much as he can use the humans to fuel his own thing, right? And this robot is superior. It catches many monkeys, right? You will never become worried. The robot doesn't worry. When a monkey is spotted, it is caught promptly. But the robot doesn't feel lonely either, because robot has captured all the monkeys. Now this robot can work indefinitely, catch even more monkeys. Nomura can continue to research, and do the same old thing, right? There's no time limit to anything. It's the same old ethical quandaries and the realities of immortality. What gives life purpose is that it ends. You know, there is limited time. And Cheetah says here, hey, looking at you, you may be better than us, superior to humans, do all these other things. But isn't it lonely that way as well, if you don't have everybody else with you? Like, we almost feel sorry for you right now. That's what Cheetah's thinking. I feel sorry for you right now, Mikage, because you're not getting a true human experience here. Akio's just kind of here, standing up in his room, and Cheetah comes along and starts talking with him. It's you, it's been a long time. However, you seem kind of very similar, and you've aged a lot. Weird. This academy has changed a lot since I was last here. Just now, I saw Professor Nomura over there. And yeah, Akio's just kind of looking out. I remember. I know what we did. So I'm thinking Akio is in some way a pawn of the end of the world. The end of the world put all this together because he knew... He's almost the Mikage for Mikage. He saw Mikage's emotions and manipulated them to the point where he researched and was successful in whatever he wanted to produce, right? And as a result, we got the Mamiya stuff and the Black Roses, and however else that helps his plan, it's going to help his plan. I feel like End of the World is pulling the strings here somewhere. Mr. You-Know-Who or whatever. Now, Utena here says, look, you don't have to do what these mysterious people tell you to do, Archie, right? You don't have to be bound by whatever you're bound by. But it isn't up to me. I am the Rose Bride after all. I don't have any say in this. I am a pawn on somebody else's board. And Utena still continues to get mad at her. Baka, you fucking idiot. You should just not do that. Again, endlessly naive. And again, if we take episode 21 on face value, kind of, hey, maybe her doing what she really wants to do gets her far away from you. Maybe you're a hoop that she needs to jump through, and this comes across as double condescending. But then Utena here says the line that there's nothing I hate more than people who don't care about their own well-being. And that reminds Mikage of the interaction that he had with Cheetah back in the day, right? Where there's nothing I hate more than somebody that neglects their own well-being. Why are you out here watering the roses when you're going to die, right? Why is Archie out here watering the roses when she's going to die? Maybe. When her life is being threatened almost. Upon seeing this, you make the connection that, hey, Cheetah and Utena are very similar. Or Tokiko, I guess you say. I'm going with Cheetah, but you know what I mean. Maybe I should go with Tokiko. Tokiko. Then we have this line from Tokiko. Just like you, he hasn't aged a single day since then, has he? Those who stay in this garden we call our academy will never become adults. Well, that's obviously thematically relevant as well, based on your demeanor and stuff, which is weird, big weirdo energy, but also like literally true because you guys are immortal based on some kind of power here at the academy. Very cool. Cheetah says, whatever this is, it's wrong. But then Akio responds, are you leading a normal life? I am. My husband is a kind person. He's good to me. What brought you here today? Well, I came to visit my little brother's grave. Okay. What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? Because then we say this and we'll just finish the episode, then we'll talk about it. Say, surely you know that to bear fruit, flowers have their petals stricken from them. Which I don't really know what that means, but we pull a rose and then that ends, right? Okay, so let's go back here. Because we don't get to see the full picture here, but you clearly know that Mamiya is alive at this point. I think you're disgusted in Mamiya and Nomura, right? And you almost see a symbolic death of the Mamiya I knew right here, right now. Like, hey, without all this sacrifice, without us literally killing 100 people, you would be dead. So I want that to be the reality, so I only see you as dead. Or there's some mystery stuff going on and Nomura is hiding Mamiya from Cheetah or Tokiko, which is bad. I think the former is true. I think this is a symbolic death of Mamiya that you see right now. The Mamiya that you know is now gone. The Mamiya that we know as the audience has replaced them. So yeah, I talked about that for fucking 70 minutes. So that was a long one. That was a very, very long one. And I probably think that this next one's probably going to be just as long. So buckle in, I guess. I'm going to bring up episode 23, like now. So yeah, same old everything. Picture in picture, blah, blah, blah. Subs, blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to hit play, man. 23 minutes and 27 seconds as well. Radio, 3, 2, 1, go. That episode was an absolute mouthful. I liked going back through and investigating it, and I think I've got a really good grasp of what happened. Because the first time through, I was just thoroughly confused. But it was all there. It was just presented very quickly, right? All the conversations were very natural in that they didn't feel directly expository. They felt like natural conversations that people in that situation would have, and we kind of have to put the pieces together ourselves. It was all very mysterious. I liked it. Now, the implication from the end of that last episode is that Tokiko was very similar to Utena. I want to see how that manifests. Do you have some kind of moral code? Oh, I'm circling her. You can't see my mouse. So yeah, I mean, is that what they meant by that? That Utena's just? That Utena cares about the masses? I don't know. As I said last segment as well, I do think it's very interesting that we have all these segments before episode 22 that are about the special ones trampling on the ones below them, the normies, where we have Mikage literally killing a bunch of normies to power his own little plan. It's pretty direct. Yep, Rose is gone. The rose that was there, it's been plucked. I'm looking. There's only one rose left. Yeah, I remember. Yep. Okay. Yeah, he did. Mm-hmm. Again, contrasting Tokiko and Utena. I've been beaten. Is there no other way to make her an ally? Interesting. Invited to the student council? Well, I do. Yeah. We are allies of convenience. And now you're praising yourself for being so gracious. Colleagues. The same difference. What are the qualifications of a duelist? I don't know. Whoever has a rose seal, I guess. Who are you looking for? Anshi? Yeah. Himamiya Anshi. What? What an odd thing to say. Did he just say, who's that? To join the little seminar. Come on. Don't trust this weird man. We didn't see their faces at all. These very interesting shots. Yeah. There you go. Well, Wakaba's pretty troubled. So's Anshi. You have lots of troubled friends. This shouldn't be hard. Oh, yeah, you're troubled as well. Good point. Oh, yeah, of course, Eternity's very clearly linked to Utena. Why didn't I think about that before? That's why we're linking Tokiko and Utena, of course. Okay, that makes a whole lot more sense. Thank you, Sho, for putting that scene in here. Ooh, spooky. Surely she's not watching more cow-related late-time television. I hope not. That's cute. Oh, the opening. I'm asleep. But yeah, that's a troubled friend of yours. Yeah. I wonder what Mikage would think if she just sent fucking Anchi straight there. That's funny. Ugh. The fuck was that? Bro's eating spaghetti. What's up? What an odd thing to say. You're not very helpful. What an odd interaction. Oh, there's a real life pictures. Hello, secretary who's leaving. Weird. Who's that? Oh, wait. If you have pictures of all these people, then even that was just yesterday. Okay, maybe I should fucking leave? Oh shit. Oh, that's cool. Oh, big old table. What the fuck? What do you mean by that? Hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's pretty long. Okay. Weird. Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, there's a picture of that too. This guy's got a lot of cameramen. Um. Oh, that's a great shot too. Whoa. You're strange. That's cool. They seem to imply there that a lot of what Mikage did there was responsible for the dueling game even starting. He opened up the path to that castle. Okay. Was that based on killing all those dudes? Don't know. Okay, clearly Mikage's being weird about it, which is good. Got it in one. Well, yeah. Each one of these girls shows Suwabuki. Okay. Yeah, look at that. Aren't you similar in that way? Hmm. Yo! Oh, you were trying to fucking riz her. Yo, she fucking beat his ass. Huh. Yeah. Interesting. Can you deny that, Utena? Maybe not. Oh, shit. I don't know if you can do that. Oh, I gave therapy to myself? Sure. Explain yourself. Or not. Hmm. Hmm. What an odd bloke. Yeah, I'll go fighter. Here's your black rose. That's fantastic. Because when Mummy is talking there, they can be talking about Mamiya or Utena. I think that's cool. Look at my damn ring. Where's Wakaba when you need her? Oh, there she is. Push her out the window at this fucking point. Can't believe I predicted that. It's been kind of awkward. I don't know. I don't know about all that. There was episodes about that not being the case. Wow. Heh. Okay, I get it. That's funny. Aren't you too old, little bro? Wait, what is this? Yo, okay, we just skipped. Sure. Weird. That was anticlimactic. Mikage, aren't you too old to go here? We love a good incandescence. Sorry, what you go, yo. Danganronpa reference. That's cool. You're not wrong, but you're twisting the truth. I think Utena might lose here. Mm-hmm. Whoa, that's cool. Also, who's Tokiko? Sick backflip, Tokiko. What's this? Okay. Well. What the fuck? Oh, all the boys? Who the fuck is that? Who is Freckles boy? Whoa, okay, you will never defeat the Tokiko in your memory. I see. Big epic slap. Whoa! Okay, shit. What the fuck? He's delusional? What the fuck? Gotcha. And that's why he loses. What the fuck? What do you mean by that? Okay. Well, what is happening? What does this mean? What? Then what are you talking to? What? What am I supposed to make any of that? No. Cool, I'm with you, I'm not fucking with you anymore. No! Why did I spend so long talking about the first one? I'm gonna go insane. What does any of this mean? Am I insane? Nomura lost his fucking mind. Cool. That's all well and good, right? That's all. Okay, so Mamiya's dead. Cool. Mamiya never looked like that. Gotcha. That picture on his desk the whole time was pure delusion. Gotcha. But then at the very end, we have Akio talking to Mamiya. But then that Mamiya is Anshi and says that you never existed? I don't care about Suwabuki getting run over by a horse. I'm losing my mind. I would imagine that... No, Archie can't be fake. That's wrong. I think I'm taking the wrong interpretation there. Okay, secret Nanami diary? Who knows? Nanami gets a fucking severe head injury? I feel like I've got a severe head injury. I'm gonna have to talk about that in some kind of level of authority. How am I gonna do that? How? How am I gonna do that? Okay. 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 Sure. I'll be back and I'll talk about this at some level for a little bit. I don't know. This is insane. What the fuck? Did this episode happen? Did it? Did any of this happen? Can we trust anything at all anymore? Just in general, like, fucking, I don't know. Listen. This is my interpretation as it stands right now. The end of the world has manipulated Mikage and Nomura to a point where they made him deluded, to where they deluded him into killing his entire faculty. Does it even go back that far? So there is no such thing as eternity, right? We thought there was evidence of eternity, but there is evidence of eternity because neither of them aged. Unless that was also delusion. Like, Akio didn't age, is my point. And at least Tokiko aged. So, does that mean... Okay. So Akio is with End of the World. That's what I think is happening, right? He gave Nomura a letter which said, hey, kill fucking everybody and you'll save Tokiko's little brother, right? You'll save her little brother, you will help her, you will gain her, almost. You'll help her plight, you'll take away her tears, all that other stuff. He knows, hey, this is morally wrong, but then sees Tokiko smooching with Akio, which is also part of the plan, which then turns Nomura to do what he does, which is kill his entire faculty, kill all the boys. Everybody keeps saying to themselves that Nomura Memorial Hall has been renovated again, right? It's been created again. It's fine. It's an actual structure. But then by the end of the episode, we see like this burnt down structure. Was it actually just a ruin the entire time? Then where were people going? What happened there? Was any of this arc even real? Right? Because if so, then who burnt down... Where were they going? Where were they going? I know there was no staff there or anything, and it was a little bit dingy, and not many characters, unless they were already mentally compromised, even saw inside of the place. But that's what's confusing me. How much of this arc can I even believe anymore? That's what's fucking with me. And then this last part, right? What are you doing? Are you sympathizing with him? But already he no longer exists in this academy. Sympathizing with, we're talking about Nomura at this point. No, he never did in the first place. Or are we talking about Mamiya here? Quite the same as you. So he's got his hand around Mamiya there, but then when we look back down, it's Anshi, right? So does this imply that Anshi doesn't exist? What does that mean? And then she looks into the fucking camera. She looks at me like she's smiling at me because you're going to have to fucking record for hours about this, you cunt. That's what she's saying to me right now. I can't do this. Not right here, right now. I can't do this. How am I supposed to do this? Oh god, I would have much preferred to do these two episodes separately. I don't know, man. That's fucked. I thought I had it all figured out, too. I thought I was onto shit. I wasn't onto nothing. Bro was onto nothing. Shit. Fuck. How am I supposed to even do this? This is another Hosoda episode, by the way, so just a heads up. Well, that part there that's a gorgeous scene. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. What is real anymore? What? The secretary? Listen, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep this segment here. I'm going to come back like next week or something and have another look here because I'm planning on doing one episode next week. I believe episode 24 is the end of an arc as well. So finish episode 24, go on my merry way. Maybe have a look at this then. Maybe that's what I need to do because this is fucking with me. I can't do this right now. So yeah, I may see you next week to have another look at this episode. I'm dead ass. So yeah, I'll see you then, man. I'll see you then. Okay, so I'm back. It's taken me about a week to come down. I'm recording this just before I record episode 24, which is going to be the next video. Very, very cool. And I've had some time to reflect on the episode, and I've got some theories and stuff, which I'll go through a little bit later. But I wanted to start with this scene here, which I think is immensely important to understanding, I guess, the metaphorical side of what's going on here, right? And this entire arc, right? And it's this scene from episode 22 with the Black Roses and Mamiya talking to Nomura back in the day. Again, with revelations from future episodes, we know that this isn't entirely what we see, or what it seems right now, I guess, and, you know... Anyway, we'll go through this scene. I think it's more important than talking about the logistics, right? So let's just start from the top. I'll do a read through and we'll consider things at the very end. So we start with Mamiya showing a kind of pearly white candied sugar preserved rose, right? Beautiful, right? Nice little bit of candy. Let's contrast that immediately with talking about the black roses. And then, you can apply that to the rest of the arc as you see fit. Another interesting line there is that Tokiko is the one that makes the white roses as well. So, who makes the black roses? These dried flowers are like them too. She doesn't like to see the flowers stricken with age. Like this, even short-lived flowers can be made to last a little longer. But I wonder if the flowers are happy being forced to go on. Eternity does not exist in this world, and yet people find the pursuit of eternity beautiful. Then this is Mikage, or Nomura, excuse me. You don't expect what your sister and I are doing to succeed? I look up to both of you, and I'm grateful too. And then, yeah, that's basically the last line of the scene. We get Mamiya reflecting on the black rose, and then we leave the scene and walk away. So what does that mean? How do I apply that to the rest of the arc, and why was it so revelatory for me, right? These black roses here are the exact same thing, in theory, that's being stabbed into people's chests. It's a kind of representation of something eternal, of a memory of the past being preserved, right? You go back through it, and the black roses, right, especially for specific characters like Kozue and Wakaba and even Keiko, right, they're very similar in that regard of wanting to preserve a moment in time, a fleeting moment, a moment that has gone away from where they are now, right? Things have turned bad, things have turned sour. I want to regain that stuff. I want to preserve that memory forever, and I'm going to use the black rose to do that. And I guess before I talk about any of that, I should go through my theories. That's probably the best way to talk about this and get to my little conclusion there at the end. And to that end, I guess I'll use my setup that I use for movies, because I want to have my Google Doc and some examples open at the same time. What the fuck happened in episode 23, right? Because what I've been showing is from episode 22. That's all well and good. So let's get episode 23 up here, and let's go right to the end, where it's the most fucked up, right? Where's kind of aren't she looking into the camera telling me that I'm a moron? There she is. What the fuck happened? Okay. We have three options here, which I'll go through in order and kind of reach an actual conclusion by the very end. What I actually think is most important from what we're doing here. So, option one, everything is an illusion, nothing is real, may God help us all. And this is where I was at, I guess, the end of the episode about a week ago, right? When the first portion of this section, right? In the immediate aftermath, I was lost. I didn't know what to think anymore. My worldview of the show had been shattered so much to a point where I don't think I could recover. And again, the largest evidence of that is the scene I have up right here. Let me get that dialogue up again. We have Akio, one hand on Mamiya, but already he no longer exists in this academy. We're talking about Mikage, we're talking about Nomura. No, he never did in the first place. Cool, I'm with you. And then quite the same as you. And then it's Anchi. And then she looks me in the eye and calls me a moron. So I don't think what I'm thinking is happening here is happening. I don't think we're saying that Anchi isn't real. I don't think that's true. I think that would shatter too much of the fabric of the show, and it throws shit too far into the air. I think this scene here, specifically putting the hand on the representation of Mamiya, which Nomura created in his own mind, which didn't look anything like Mamiya, actually looked a lot more like Yutu, which is interesting as well. I think that is what he's calling never real. I think he's calling this representation again of Mamiya, who is there. You never existed, Nomura never existed, that's all well and good. I do think it's interesting, however, like the placement of Mamiya and the character design of Mamiya and how similar that is to Anchi. And what do we know about Anchi? Sometimes, somewhere, whether she's being influenced to or not, she is pushing people into the dueling game, pushing the end of the world's agenda. So in a very similar way to Anchi, maybe Mamiya, as a figment almost, is pushing certain people towards the duels. That could be another interpretation and is worth a further look, but I don't want to make this video any much longer than it already is. However, it must be considered that the whole is a supernatural element in the story, or was a supernatural element, right? And now, to my knowledge right now, doesn't exist physically, didn't exist physically after it burnt down, and exists as a metaphor for the descent into darker emotions, emotions of the past. You know, we've gone through 6 or 7 of these now, different descents and what they meant. And we'll talk about elements of this episode as well and how they represent Nomura's descent in a very similar way to the rest of these characters, and how Utena kind of simultaneously goes through a similar descent as well. It's all very interesting. We'll talk about that when we go through the episode proper. But with all this in mind, especially about the Hall, what is the other supernatural element in the story that may exist only in metaphor and is a little bit ridiculous in the context of everything else, and also represents a direct counterpoint to the descent of the elevator in Nomura Hall, being the ascent up to the dueling arena and the castle that drifts up above, which potentially you may be involved? Is that shit not real either? Is that shit only metaphor? I don't know. I would think that, again, we have End of the World, we have Akio, we have the Prince, who's sitting on that big old egg. They're a little bit more tangible in the story. I feel like they will go a few more places. Again, we'll talk about early elements in this episode, and actually episodes leading up to this one, about not showing Mamiya as much as early, right? As this delusion is kind of breaking down, we don't see this as much. I haven't seen similar things happen with the dueling arena yet. There is one specific part in here where we don't show the ascent, which is a break of formula, which I find interesting as well. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll go through the episode again as well. Option 2, and I'm kind of between option 2 and option 3. Both have evidence for, both have evidence against. But let's start here with option 2. Nomura Hall isn't real, and episode 23 didn't happen. So, I mean the entire episode. We have this prologue here, the memories, kind of Mikage talking to himself a lot. This really odd conversation between... I guess, Utena and Mikage, and this representation of Tokiko, and there's not a lot of side characters being introduced. There's a little bit of Anshi, but she's not awake. It's basically an episode between two characters. Another very interesting one is this secretary, which we'll talk about as well. Weird, but it's isolated. It's isolated enough that you could believe that this entire episode is Mikage's delusion. And definitely up until a certain point here, up until the eye catch, definitely I think it is, right? But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's get to that scene with the burnt out Nomura Hall. And we're visiting, right? Cool. The evidence that episode 23 didn't happen, or most of this shit didn't actually happen, is the scene with Miki and Utena at the burnt out Nomura Hall. If the hall was burnt down, then what the hell did Utena walk into in the middle portion of this episode? Is this, again, a physical representation of a conversation between Mikage and Utena? Instead of this location actually existing, all these photos on the wall that we see here are instead a conversation and Mikage revealing things and trying to get her into the elevator within a conversation, within a metaphorical, physical space representing a conversation. This building not existing and this specific place in this conversation physically not happening would also lead us to believe that this place never existed and that Nomura Hall was a grand metaphor the entire time. Again, this is just reiterating the statement of the theory that she never did walk into the hall and Mikage imagined the entire episode and it's all his delusion. Enough of the episode already is his delusion, so it wouldn't, it wouldn't not fit, put it that way. And again, as I said, this means that each descent was a delusion by each and every party involved, Mikage drawing out these negative emotions from the past, making black roses, sticking them in people's chests, and sending them upstairs, right? Where again, black rose never existed, blah, 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 blah. It's all a big metaphor. But the conclusion, I don't think this is entirely correct either. The execution of the middle of the episode, which I already talked about, where we kind of break the delusion which Mikage is building for himself here, especially this kind of stuff, which is really interesting, right here, where Utena punches him in the fucking head, right, as he tries to draw her further and further down. Why would Mikage deludedly imagine that? Unless Utena is a representation of Tokiko's reaction as well. Like, she's a representation of Tokiko in his head, right? And even his delusion can't imagine a place where Tokiko would believe him and fall for his lies again. Something like that could be real. That's where I think that gets a little bit more interesting as well. That is a could have happened, I think. Where, hey, even in my imagination, I can't get Utena on my side because she is so similar to Tokiko, and I can't imagine Tokiko ever being on my side based on what I did in the past, which is basically mass murder. You know, it's pretty bad. Then we have option 3, which is basically the binary of option 2. Nomura Hall isn't real and episode 23 did happen. Evidence basically the opposite of what I said before. The aforementioned scene in the middle of the episode, the one I'm on right now. Why would he imagine himself getting beaten up instead of imagining Utena going along with his plan and descending and getting her own black rose, or Anshi getting a black rose, or whatever the hell, right? But again, the one that contrasts that is the scene at the end of the episode with the burnt out hall. How did this conversation happen here if the hall was burnt out? Doesn't make any sense. At a conclusion for option 3, I am confused. But I am less confused now, right? 1, I think my little theory that I just came up with on the spot there about Utena being a representation of Tokiko is actually pretty valid, and a reason why this episode is actually a delusion by Mikage. Even in his delusions, he can't escape the judgment of Tokiko, and his own internal judgment and his own internal conscience, and you can read into that however you want. But I think more importantly, I don't think much should be taken at the face value of the physical presence of this episode. Point being, Mikage's the perspective through which it's being told, and he's insane. So this could be real, but it could also just be insanity. And this scene here could be real. And this could be real. And so much of the episode is insanity, especially the scene with the secretary, right? Like, that is straight up insanity, I think. Especially after the lines that are said and her character design. We'll talk about it. That just, you know, that screams insanity to me. This screams realizing I'm insane, looking at the pictures. Again, the reveal of what Mamiya actually looked like and what actually happened to him. That would be evidence to that theory. And then again, you retroactively apply that to every other episode and think about what Mikage's actually been doing. Or, you know, Mikage, his existence is just a metaphor for somebody else taking a descent into deeper, darker emotions based on the past. The curious one then would be Tokiko in current year seeing Professor Nomura and him not noticing her. Does that make sense? I think it still does, because I think there's something to be said about Tokiko seeing a Professor Nomura and then Professor Nomura not recognizing her, not seeing her as somebody that needs this kind of thing anymore. Like, it's almost a representation of Tokiko going back through her own experience at this school and realizing that she's better now, that she's grown up, that she doesn't need to go through this power revolutionizing world thing. She's actually gotten what she wanted. She's actually happy. Therefore, she doesn't need to revolutionize the world. She doesn't need to do all this Mikage stuff. She doesn't need a black rose. She's not holding on to anything from the past. She's acknowledging it. She puts flowers at the grave of Mamiya. You know, sad about it, obviously. But I don't need Professor Nomura anymore. I don't need what he represents. And again, I think we'll get a better understanding, especially with the Anshi stuff and the Akio stuff and the End of the World stuff as we continue, right? That's going to be more concrete, actual parameters in the story, moving away from metaphor. Or we're going full on fucking scorched earth and everything is a metaphor, and may God help us all. Basically that. The other weird thing is there's another episode in this arc. I don't know if that's just going to be happy fun times or a recap or something. I don't know what we'll do there. We'll see as we continue, I guess. So now that I've got my overall stuff out of the way and what I think actually happened, I think going through the episode itself is going to be a little bit more fruitful because, hey, like, you know, I now understand what's going on. I think I've got a running theory. Now I can see if there's evidence for or against said theory and understand the episode and its techniques used in a lot more depth. Like this scene in particular is fucking amazing. Did I mention I've kind of watched through this episode this morning again already? So I've got a pretty good grasp of what goes where as well, which is cool. But yeah, I mean, this episode feels like a big episode. Like it feels important. It feels like this is one that people really like, or it's really divisive, something like that. This feels like an episode that, you know, would do well on YouTube. People would want to see other people's reactions to it. So again, it's a biggie. We're going to try to do our best here. The episode here starts with the sound of an elevator. That elevator is probably descending. This episode, again, as I've said already, is a metaphorical representation of Mikage's own descent and finding out, you know, how much is real, how much is fake. Guess what? Most of it's fake. But anyway, we'll talk about it. One of your first major clues here is the dialogue here from Mamiya. And then here we see Mikage all alone. He looks really tired. He looks worn out. He's down to his last rose. He's down to his last attempt here to hold on to whatever this is that's fake. Again, that's the other idea of like the kind of dry preserved roses. They're kind of fake, right? They're kind of flaky and, you know, yeah, there's something to that. And the representation of Mikage's delusion, how the Black Rose represents that as well. So again, if we're talking like actual timeline stuff, I think Nemuro did kill 100 boys. They did burn down inside of his thing, but I'm thinking quickly after that, Nemuro either went insane or he died or something like that, because Mikage doesn't really exist at this academy. Not like that, I don't think. But I do think a lot of what happened in the past is still true, I think. But is it? Because Akio didn't age. Are we still thinking about that? Really? But you have to believe that that scene with Tokiko in the tower is real. With Akio and Tokiko in the tower, you would have to imagine that's real. So then how does that work? What actually happened in the past? Anyway, I'm losing myself again. I thought I was over this. Okay, focus. So Mikage is now talking to himself. Tokiko, your brother is sinful. However, this sacrifice was worth it. It gave us something eternal, blah, 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 blah. I'm insane. Because again, one of the major revelations as well is that Mamiya never burnt this down. I'm thinking that Mamiya was getting sicker and sicker, and then Nemuro's like, okay, it's one last throw at the stumps here to both try to save your brother and impress you and try to grab onto something eternal, something Sayonji as well. And then that's why, you know, over here, he did what he did, you know? So yeah, there's definitely something in scapegoating the brother in his own delusion, I think. And again, let's talk about the elephant in the room as well. He's all touchy-feely with Mamiya, right? But Mamiya died. So instead of being touchy-feely with an actual, you know, teenage boy, he's being touchy-feely with a representation of his angst with an older woman through the visage of a teenage boy. Which is not better, but it's something. I don't know what to tell you, man. So again, all of this is delusion, kind of Mamiya looking this POV shot, right? This is where, you know, Nemuro would have actually been, and he's kind of recounting Tokiko's face, but he wouldn't have this perspective if his delusion was correct, if Mamiya was actually in this position. So on a plot level in this part of the episode, Mikage is like, okay, time to go for the big guns. I've got one Black Rose left. Utena's important. Let's try to, you know, Black Roseify Utena. That sounds like a plan. Now, at that same point, after descending here, we're ascending here with the student council, which is interesting. They say that they want to recruit Tenjo Utena as well. This one's interesting, because Mikage's not here. So is this delusional, is this not? Are we going to see a scene in the future where Utena is, I guess, tried to be wooed by the student council into joining? Maybe. That would be interesting for Nanami to eat some humble pie about that. That would be cool. Again, my running theory that Nemuro Hall doesn't exist and the Black Roses don't exist, then what are they talking about right now? That there's this shady threat that's, you know, sending people up to the dueling arena. Are they the same as Utena, right? Because I'll talk about this in the middle of the episode. Because Utena and Mikage share one thing. They share this idea that the Black Roses are responsible, and that stabbing the Black Roses is that metamorphosis point, and that's what sends them into that rage and sends them up to the dueling arena, right? However, I've talked about a number of times how Utena has a very, very simple view of what the Black Roses do. She sees it as a very simple corruption type technique, right? Where, almost very shonen sense, you're changing somebody's mind, you're, brainwashing them and then sending them up somewhere. Where I've repeatedly said that's not the case. It's a deeper delve into underlying dark emotions from the past that is fueling this stuff. It's no brainwash involved, it's just an aspect of how certain people feel. So is the student council similar in that regard? The student council that's like, hey, there's some shadowy organization, it has to be. There's no other reason for why there would be a class of people that would want to revolutionize the world and use black and dark emotions to understand that and go forth with that. There's no other reason. It has to be some shadowy organization. When in reality, there is a shadowy organization. It's just the fucking people that are giving you letters. Yeah. Again, I don't have all the pieces yet, but I think that's my running theory, is that everybody is like, oh, there must be some threat. When there is no threat, it's just emotions. Emotions is the threat. Jury confirms something here. We don't need to be allies with other people on the student council. We're not all allies here. We're duelists. We're still in competition, even though we share that same banner up the top that says student council member or student council president or whatever the hell. We're still duelists. We're still against each other in this thing. There's still conflict. We still all want to grab the one thing at the very top instead of sharing it, Almost in a very review Starlight sense. That's kind of funny. Now, the episode title's interesting. The qualifications of a duelist. I don't understand what this means. Maybe there's some dialogue to this effect that I missed during my rewatch. So at the start of this episode, we have Utena looking for Anshi. Anshi is lost. She goes to the kind of garden. What did we call it? Oh my god, Sunlit Garden. She goes to the Sunlit Garden and doesn't see Anshi there, but she sees, Choo Choo, which is kind of fun. Where's my good friend Choo Choo? Can I find my good friend Choo Choo? Where is Choo Choo? Find me Choo Choo. There's Choo Choo. Thank God. So Choo Choo here, but Anshi not here. She's probably chilling with Akio, which we see at the end of the episode anyway, right? It also links to the end of the episode. The reason why they're even looking near Nemuro Hall, the burnt remains, is because they're looking for Anshi, but still can't find her, right? Mikage's really weird in the Sunlit Garden, which makes me think that this may be the point that the delusion starts. We'll say. Like, he just walks in, he kind of claims that he doesn't know who Anshi is, which is just wrong, but I guess he's trying to slide in and convince Utena to go off to the Nemuro Hall and join the seminar and do all that kind of stuff. There's weird shit going on with the editing. Look at this here, right? So we're over here, and then we kind of cut back. Like there, cuts back. Really weird. Not something you would do in a professional anime production without reason. Again, this is a Hosoda directed episode. This just makes me think like this is delusion. This isn't real. This isn't reality. We don't see concrete portions or concrete portraits, I should say, of the people in the background. It seems like this is inside his own head. Again, Mikage here is saying that you have this aura, you have this thing that I really like about you, blah, 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 blah. He's being very forward. You're quite welcome to join. You're quite welcome to become our ally. We'll do everything to fix whatever troubles you. Same thing there again. We do that same thing where the frame kind of catches itself. And Uten is explaining to him that, hey, I don't really feel troubled. I'm fine, and I can't really go along because Choo Choo would leave cookie crumbs everywhere. But more importantly here, again, Mikage's delusion. We see that he sees Utena as Tokiko. And this is an important element as we continue. Tokiko is like this shining light at the end of the tunnel for Mikage, right? The ideal, the special one, all this other stuff. They also share similar things in their determination and experience in the past is, I guess, propelling them forward now. And again, there's more to this as we continue. Mikage then explains that, hey, if you have troubled friends, that could be a reason to come along as well. We could delve deep into that. That's what we've been seeing is these people are tangentially related to the student council and getting targeted, like a Keiko or a Suwabuki or a Shiori, anybody, right? Either way, this is a pretty, clear representation of Anshi being trapped. I feel like Anshi is trapped by something, Choo Choo trapped in Genie Lamp. Fair enough. More to this point, and what makes me think that this episode itself may be less metaphorical than I'm giving it credit, might be actually more physical, is the stuff with Utena, right? So yes, I do have an experience in the past which is propelling me forward now. My experience in when my parents died, I was crying. Prince got me up and out again and did all that kind of stuff, right? This experience in the past is propelling me forward into the now, right? It's literally the intro of the series. It's the meaning of everything, basically. In that way, Mikage and Utena are similar. They have these experiences from the past that are propelling them forward, and we do have to question the accuracy of both, I guess. If the characters are being compared, is this kind of thing the exact memory of what happened? Or are we holding on to some rose colored memory of the past? I don't know. Now, this is a gorgeous scene. I love this scene here, right? We have Utena sleeping by the table. From the hand placement, you would have to imagine that Archie came home. Utena was maybe waiting up for her, and she had one of her Saturday rendezvous with you know who. She's come home and she's kind of slept on the table and put her hand on Utena's. Again, thinking clearly about Archie's motivations here, you could see this as manipulative, but I don't know. I like to think that it's, at least for Utena right now, something quite sweet. Now, the timeline's weird here. This didn't happen the night after we had the conversation with Mikage in the scene just previous. This happened some other time in the past, I think. And interesting stuff there. Hey Himamiya, and then we see like two hands kind of separate like the opening, right? Hey Himamiya, and then the hands do that, but then we hold each other's hands, right? I want to hold on to you, I don't want to let you go, that kind of thing. Is there really no way that I can stop us being torn apart, right? By this Rose Bride, by this system, by the duels, by the everything, right? Is there really no way we can be together, is what she's asking right now. And holding on very tight. This, I guess, gives credence to the episode that Utena may actually fall for Mikage's stuff here. Very similar to the end of the previous arc, right? Where we saw the planting of Utena getting more and more confused, and then the payoff during the duel with Torga, right? Is a similar thing happening here? As it turns out, no. We're kind of mixing up the formula there. Utena then makes her way to Nemuro Hall. The structure is standing upright. It is not burnt down. Which again, maybe here is where the delusion begins? Because Archie is happy and safe and well, right? She's just in bed. And then we have a very interesting scene between between Mikage and his secretary. She alerts him that there's a visitor in the entrance hall, and Mikage affirms that, and now it seems that the secretary is going. What does going mean? Leaving, quitting, never to come back. She looks kind of like Tokiko. We have a pretty clear delineation between shot and reverse shot in the scene between the two characters. I would have to imagine that this secretary doesn't exist. Like this building around us doesn't exist right now. There's a reason we never see her eyes. However, this is something that Mikage needs to imagine to even live at the moment. Even if he is living, he doesn't exist, but he needs to think he exists even as a ghost. I guess you could see why this is confusing for me, I guess. I think the idea of this dialogue here as well is that it's the delusion questioning itself. It's Mikage's own internal questioning itself. Like, there's really weird coincidences here. I just became secretary when you told me be my secretary. And then I quit when you told me that I'm fired. I just quit. Bye. You're not needed anymore. She leaves. Because this is the last Black Rose. The girl's already here. We have no further need for a secretary. Makes sense? I've highlighted this dialogue here as well because, again, I think that you look a little bit like Tokiko of the past. I can let my hair down now that I'm free from your chains. What is a distinct factor that we noticed about Tokiko in the now? The Tokiko that has actually aged. She has flowing long hair. Is that something? Does Mikage, even in a ghost illusion sense, recognize the old or the new Tokiko? Maybe I'm reaching there, but I like to think it's true. Again, this is a delusion of Tokiko talking right now through Mikage's perspective. Maybe you were special, maybe you were one of the chosen, but the one I fell in love with was a boy younger than me. Like you. Imagining that Tokiko loved the younger version of Mikage and now he's the older version, but then I am who I am, he's kind of shirking responsibility for even his own delusion, and then she just says goodbye and leaves. This is a fun one as well. This is a photo that is present in the middle of the episode, which will become way more relevant later on. This is Tokiko. This is actual Mamiya in real life. Now, I don't understand entirely what it means by Mikage's delusion of Mamiya. being very similar character design-wise to Akio and Anshi. What does that mean? I cannot begin to fathom that. But maybe it has something to do with the deal he made in the past with the end of the world. And again, like the Akio dialogue here, right, where it's like, you've outlived your usefulness, the end of the world wants you to graduate, blah, 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 all that shit. Who is he actually talking to? Is he talking to a ghost? Did the end of the world talk to a ghost? I don't know. Again, if you're a way less charitable, I guess, viewer than me, or way more concerned about, I guess, plot structure and timeline stuff and continuity, boring, stupid stuff, you could probably ding this episode quite a bit. It doesn't make entire sense right here at this moment. It's not, fucking Attack on Titan or something. It's not something where it's like very straightforward. What I see is what I get. At least the early parts. I know the later parts get a little bit more metaphysical. But anyway, like, this is entirely metaphor. Back to my conclusion from my stupid Google Doc, right? I don't think the logistics actually matter. I don't know why I keep talking about them. I'm kind of obsessed with talking about them, but what's more important is the metaphorical. We have the Tokiko representation walking out. We see some interesting images in the back. You would have to imagine these are of staff or something. If you wanted to squint and say that it's a very meta, I guess, representation of creation and almost the show itself recognizing creators, that could be interesting. But either way, we have Utena discovering some stuff here. She's kind of just looking at various photos and then sees all the duelists, all the Black Rose duelists in order. Now, it's unclear whose delusion this is. You'd have to imagine that it's Mikage's delusion. But here in this part, kind of Utena looks at a photo of the 100 boys that got fucking burnt or whatever the hell. And then we zoom in, it turns to real life for a second, and then we see a completely black background Nomura Hall, right? I think that this is the underworld. I think that this is hell. I think that this is the afterlife, wherever that may be. There's a table with nobody sitting at it, but we hear voices, right? And they're kind of cheering on Nomura's demise. This is almost the representation of Nomura's guilt at what he did, or Mikage's guilt, I guess I should say. And kind of all these ghosts saying, hey, the elimination of Nomura right now, the lack of Black Roses, and his current circumstance is probably what you-know-who is planning anyway. That's part of the end of the world's plan, is to use you till you're not useful anymore, and then chuck you away. And then they're all popping champagne. They basically don't like Mikage very much. And then again, delusional Mamiya here is like, how selfish are they? It's because of you that the castle appeared and the path to the arena opened, is it not? Maybe not. Again, this is all inside your head. And this here is inspired. This is a gorgeous frame. The choice of the flowers, and as we continue with the scene, kind of the flowers growing up and up Mamiya's face, if we can find that. Yeah, right there. Yeah, gorgeous. And again, you can read into the colors of the roses how you want. White, yellow, red, all important colors to us right now. Again, we have Mikage running through his own head, the situation from the past, what happened back there, and again, still has Mamiya in this spot, but more and more he kind of walks in and claims the scene, right? You can see him very different colored there, grabs her arm, tries to justify this sacrifice as the creation of eternity and doing stuff for the future. These are worth the sacrifice of what we will attain. Again, I kind of did this all for you in a way as well. But again, still pushing this off to Mamiya, still saying that Mamiya did it for themselves instead of, me just doing it and then Mamiya just dying. Because, again, I don't think that it worked. Back to current day, Mikage is having this delusion still, thinks that he's all in control right now, that kind of thing, this kind of stuff, right? Even in his own little space here, he still sees this definitive moment with Akio and Tokiko. I knew you would come back to me sooner or later. Tokiko-san, you don't have to regret abandoning me, which is a crazy thing to say, along with this crazy visual of Utena's face and Tokiko's hair and clothes. Now that we've established in this scene that Mikage sees Tokiko right there in front of him, right? Instead of Utena, it's Tokiko, but it's also a mix between them both. He expects Tokiko to go along with everything, like nothing has happened. But the representation of his own guilt pushes against it and pushes him to the ground. That's what I'm seeing this scene representing. However, there's some important talk here about, I guess, the similarities between Utena and Mikage, both holding on to this memory of the past, wishing that it was eternal, wishing to get back that time. Utena has her prince, Mikage has his princess in Tokiko in his own mind. And I guess the delusion stops here. There is a musical cue after the kind of eye catch in the middle of the episode there, right? Where there's this really jaunty tune. It's almost like he still thinks he's winning right now. He still thinks he's pulling all the strings. He still thinks he's him. And then, hey, his guilt or whatever catches up with him, and you're no longer him. You get pushed to the ground, you get beaten up. Utena's reaction here very similar to Tokiko's reaction of the past. Again, a delusional Nomura thought that Tokiko would be like, hell yeah, you murdered 100 people, that's fucking awesome. Where in reality that didn't happen. Even in his delusion, he thought that, hey, Utena would support me now, but then catches up with him. If you're like Tokiko, you will have a similar reaction to Tokiko. So the other understanding that you could have is Utena is actually here, and this sequence here is very similar to kind of Utena descending. This is her descent right now, and she doesn't remember any element of the descent because nobody does, right? So when the scene happens at the very end and she's like, why does this place burn down? She doesn't remember any of this. Maybe that's it. Again, Mikage gives the speech here. We're not so different, you and I. We are the same. We both have rose seals. We both have the eyes of somebody who won't stop wishing. You wish to turn your memories into something eternal. Join me and we will rule the galaxy together, that kind of vibe. But instead of, I guess, assimilating, Utena pushes against him again. Hey, I'm going to challenge you to a duel. Let's go up to the dueling arena. I'm going to beat you to a pulp. And then we follow Mikage elevatoring himself. This is very similar to the poses that we see a lot of the different characters that take the elevator in as they descend. This kind of abandon all hope, hunched over in a corner type deal. And more emphasis to the point of delusion here, right? The memory that he has with Mamiya now isn't a memory that he can physically represent in the space. It has to be based on a memory. It has to be based on something in the past. It has to be what Mamiya looked like in these certain scenes. I can no longer physically put you in the same space as me and touch you inappropriately, which is weird. I have to imagine you talking to me in a scene which doesn't match with the rest of everything else. This is the spot where Mikage has abandoned all hope, right? Laughing almost maniacally, sees the one tear, and the pain of, I guess, almost coming to the realization that I don't exist has forcibly brought out the tear here. However, it's lucky that I had my rose seal on me. If she didn't end up seeing the rose seal, she may have just beaten me to a pulp and I would have died right there. Beaten to a pulp by Tokiko, and again, truly she keeps surprising and hurting me in different ways. Again, Utena Tokiko. As I thought, Tokiko has returned to settle the score with me once and for all. After all, we haven't made any progress in all this time. We're coming to a close. My delusion is running thin. However, Utena is close to the power of Dios. We need that. This is our last chance. We're taking that last throw at the stumps. We see Mamiya here in the past, handing a black rose to Mikage in the present, which isn't how this works. And again, he's just giving himself a black rose right now. Which again, you can explain as like, he's still living in his own head in this system by which black roses stabbed into me will make me strong and change me and do all this kind of stuff. Which, as I've explained before in this segment, is, I think, bullshit. The black roses never mattered. They never existed. They were almost a placebo, a representation of something rather than its root cause. Interesting scene here of Utena alone thinking about stuff, which again gives credence to the other theory that Utena actually exists in all of this. She's looking at her own little rose seal here, wondering if she's really that different from Mikage. He's holding on to something from the past, won't let it go, and he's letting it consume him. How am I any better in that regard? What am I doing heroically as opposed to everybody else? I'm seemingly just in the same system possessing the Rose Bride. Is that anything better than what he's doing over there? Not really. I don't know. Food for thought for Utena, I think, and discovering that maybe she needs to revolutionize the system rather than sitting in it and potentially even reaping benefits from it. A very interesting note here is Wakaba's presence. Wakaba seemingly is all over Utena again, not holding on to a grudge, at least in Utena's perspective. I don't know. No matter what happens, I'm always on your side, says Wakaba, which is weird. And then that jumps us straight into the Shadow Girls segment. What does any of that mean? That's weird. Then we have the Shadow Girls segment, which is a pretty direct thing, I think. You are holding on to something from the past, which you should let go of. You are now an adult man with a fucking bowler hat and glasses and a monocle and breakfast, and you're reading the newspaper. You can't keep passing other things off to other people and doing the wrong thing by saying, Hey, but I used to be a class rep. I used to be. That's not how that works. You need to be that thing in the present. Absolutely peaked in high school vibes from this guy. Don't like it. The kicker here being that, hey, the young child is off to school now, saying goodbye to Papa, and then Papa's like, hey, wait, give me that school bag. I want to go back to school as well. Now, do we have characters that should be physically older but aren't? That are still at school in a weird way? Yeah, be Mikage, but Mikage's kind of a weird ghost. We don't know yet. And Akio is crazy too. So you guys are like those guys, just kind of hanging around school, relying on holding on to things from the past. I think more directly Mikage, especially with the part in the episode where it's like, hey, it's time to graduate. The interaction we have with the scene is Wakabe instead saying goodbye to him, wishing him on his way as he exits to go back to school. Now, very, very interestingly, we skip Absolute Destiny Apocalypse. I think this is very purposeful. I think that, again, we can't call this a legitimate duel in the rest of the way that the others are a legitimate duel. I think, in Mikage's own mind, he's transported himself here. I think this duel never happened. We have a few of the other things. We have Utena grabbing the sword out of Anshi's chest, the power of Dios and all that. Then we have a song. Let's do the song before anything else, before I explain the rest of it. Darkness, incandescence, creation, puppets. Darkness makes sense, true. Incandescence, light. Puppets, kinda. Like I'm putting a black rose into people to puppet them. Theocentrism is the name. Hello, theocentrism. I'm going to look that up. Okay, so theo like theology, right? That makes sense. Religion, the central nature of God in existence, theocentrism. My point of view is based on God. And it seems to be in opposition to existentialism and other things, right? So keep that in mind as we continue. We're talking about God here. God is the center of everything. Especially theocentrism is the name, and then zooming in on Mamiya in one of the pictures. Right there. Like, that's something, right? A single being pulls all the strings. Everyone else is merely imaginary puppetry. Okay, so you maybe saw yourself as a god at some points, but now by the end of it, you definitely see yourself as one of the puppets, and end of the world is the god instead, sure. Darkness, frigidity, creation organisms. I'm starting to fall apart. It's becoming frigid. Now that's fragile. Frigid is like it's cold. Or something else. I think you know what I'm talking about as well. But to be frigid generally means to be cold. Okay, dark, cold, creation organisms. Theocentrism is the link. Upon nature's stage, the original agent is the imaginary art of life creation. Are we talking to his delusion here, creating life in his own fucking head? Words, births, encounters, and meanderings. Wisdom, births, encounters, and voids. Something is being born in the void? Oh, where and when am I? Delusion, true. Incantations, charms, mysteries, prayers, me. Stage, destiny, magic, mirror. This is just like word association with the arc, if I'm honest. Stage is interesting. Full moon, mysterious transformations. I am an imaginary life form coming to my end. Full moon, mysterious transformations. I am an imaginary fate form coming to my end. Life and fate? We're kind of contrasting there. My fate is already sealed. My life is already ended. Wishing for life and never ending, living on as a hollow form. Yeah, that's Mikage, true. Wishing for soil, armless, legless. I continue to exist, transparent, intangible. So he's a fucking ghost. I wish for soil. I wish to be fucking buried. I wish I could just let go. And you know, I'm dead. I'm in the soil. And yeah, the last part of the song there is nothing but a sigh. That's interesting. And then we get a whole bunch of revelations about what actually happened, which is cool. All right, let's talk through the fight itself, because there's lots of cool cuts in it. It's very well directed, well animated, that kind of thing. I'm not quite back to normal yet. You got my shoulder quite well. Is that when she fucking punched him? However, I don't feel that I will lose to you. I'm not losing to some bastard pulling strings from the shadows. There's actually some bigger bastard pulling even more strings. And he says, instead of refuting that, you know, that he won't lose, right? He's refuting that he's pulling the strings. No, you don't understand. There's somebody else pulling the strings. That's not quite accurate, he says. Sorry what you go, yo. Something like that, right? This cut here is actually pretty impressive too. I like that stuff. That's pretty well animated sword fighting animation stuff. Oh, he's kind of spitting some facts here, right? Those that possess my black roses stand there or came there of their own free will. Then they fought here with their own free will. All who stand here are the same as me. Not quite. They didn't murder 100 kids, so that's, a start. But I'm with you. I'm with you that they're responsible. It was their free will that brought them here, and kind of palming that off to being some rose is some nonsense. And then, yeah, the Utena dialogue here is interesting. Shut up. Don't put the blame on them for what you did. That is something that Utena actually believes. But she's not here right now. I still think that, again, this is all delusion. This is, again, two internal parts of Mikage in conflict. How are you any different from all those other people, Utena? This is maybe something that she should consider, right? Like, those people are only standing on their side of the illusion. Let's use Wakaba as an example, based on their point of view, based on what has happened to them in their past and the memory that they're trying to hold on to, right? You, in a very similar way, are standing here right now, even though you're in possession of the Rose Bride, for a very similar thing, right? You are holding on to something to do with the prince, right? Isn't that part of the reason why you're here? Because you're interested in the rose seals? The prince gave you a rose seal after all. Surely there must be something involved here, right? And then again, making it even more obvious, right? Like, what would happen to Utena if she found her prince and they were stolen? How do you think she would react? That is what Mikage has gone through, and he turned very sour very quickly. I guess I should say Nemuro. This is a great scene as well. We realize that the person that was holding that coffin the entire time was just a representation of Nemuro himself as well. Like, he turned his back away from Tokiko and turned inwards towards himself and towards this little master plan involving the eternity stuff, killing all those kids. That's what the coffin represents probably as well. Right here, right now, I will win and you will lose, Tokiko. And then Tokiko's still fighting back. Very much Tokiko. You're such an obstinate girl, Tokiko. Seems like you won't see till I strike that rose from your chest. And then the fight kind of reaches fever pitch here. In one of his strikes, he removes one of the photos from one of the desks, which I think is the photo that he spies later on. So Utena is halfway through doing a backflip, right? She's kind of vulnerable midair, and Mikage kind of goes forward to try to strike, but we hear Anshi calling out. Then we see Anshi there, I fall, we're grabbing each other, very cool, and we have Mamiya in the past here, turning back and telling him that he's about to lose. She is going to strike the rose from your chest. There's nothing you can do about it. Again, the delusion coming to a close, him realizing everything and disappearing. He hears Mamiya's voice, and he's like, where's Mamiya, where's Mamiya? And then looks to the photo, right? Mamiya is not the Mamiya I recognize. I'm now seeing the truth of the photo. And again, this is the final breaking point of the delusion and the thing that sends him over the edge to not existing anymore. Pretty much that. But again, in contrast to Utena at this time, and again, we're contrasting Utena and Mikage and Mamiya and Anshi, Utena actually has her second in command with her right now, where Mikage's looking around, trying to find said second in command, and can't find them. The second in command here gives her a buff, and gives her the ability to go onwards, where Mamiya doesn't exist, and can't do the same thing for Mikage. Nice little bit of contrast there, and I wonder what that means in the context of the final lines of Anshi never existing or whatever. Does that have something to do with what's going on here? It at least gives Anshi more tangibility than Mamiya, I think. You're going to lose. You'll never defeat the sister of mine within your memory, not for all of eternity. So, two interpretations. One, the sister of mine. So, I look very similar to Anshi. Even in metaphor, she could be my sister. True. But more accurately, I think we're talking about Tokiko. And Mamiya's talking about his sister being Tokiko, right? The whole episode, Mikage's had this delusion around Utena as Tokiko, and this is almost his kind of cruel judgment, almost like the gods judging him right now. Not for all of eternity will you escape scot-free for what you did to those kids and what you did to Tokiko. You would imagine that he's off after this plane right now, off to some other realm where he continue to be tortured. You can only hope, right? And then, yeah, Utena's getting all the buffs. She has the power of Dio. She has Anshi on her side. Everything's leading up to Mikage losing, and in the heat of that, we have a flashback back to the Night of the Fire. And Mikage's still holding on to it. I will defeat you and grasp the power to change the world. I'm not done yet. And almost talking to Tokiko here, right? Why don't you understand? I took it all as my burden. I was trying to help your little boy, your brother, and took all of the, I guess, repercussions, all of the murdering on me. I did it all. Why aren't you impressed? Why didn't it work? Blah, 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 blah. She's on a different level to you, man. There's dialogue in episode 22, I'm sure of it, where she's like, eternal things don't last forever. Like, there's no such thing as eternity, right? Like, she doesn't believe in it. She maybe believed in it for a second, but not as much as you do. And if this is the price to eternity, then I don't want it anyway. But why are you refusing my gift? Aren't you considering all that I had to give up to give you this gift? Again, I don't care. I don't care what you had to give up. That wasn't your choice to make, and you're a murderer, so I don't like you. I even took your brother's sin and then the slap. He almost slaps himself here in the past and realizes that, hey, he never burnt it down. I was the one that burnt it down. I didn't take the sin for the brother, right? He never existed. I was taking the sin for myself, and then, yeah, everything starts to unravel from here. And again, this is the moment that the audience also realizes totally what's going on. Hey, that whole thing was delusion. Who truly set fire to that building? It wasn't Mamiya. In some attempt for their own agency in attaining eternity, you chose for them. And for that, you cannot be, I guess, forgiven. That's maybe why a representation of Mamiya is passing judgment on you right now as well. And then, yeah, the kicker here that Mamiya never looked like what Mamiya looked like, and Mikage thinking back to his time as Nemuro, and the memory there, his memory was even wrong. He was deluding himself in his own memory even. Of course, it makes way more sense why this character would have that kind of design. This is like a male version of Tokiko. That makes way more sense for a sibling. And then, yeah, as Utena thrusts forward with her sword, we cut over to Akio, who is making a phone call. Now, Nemuro, I was expecting a call from you, right? The boy called Mamiya you kept by your side owing to your regrets over Tokiko. That person died a long time ago. I exploited the illusory memories which you held so dear as to halt your own time, which I don't understand how you did that, but sure. Let's just say it's supernatural fucking end of the world stuff, sure. And again, this is a larger metaphor for the series, and probably for you overall. The time you spent restraining your own potential, never quite reaching adulthood, was useful. It's almost like we're using the power of adolescence energy or something for your overall plan, which is kind of meta in a sense too. Again, I don't know how much of that is concrete yet. I'm kind of looking for something concrete in all of this and struggling. However, this has run its course. From this point forward, no path has been prepared for you. You're basically done, kid. I would like very much for you to graduate. Here we also see a representation of Mamiya standing in that same room. In reality, it's just Anshi. Now again, this is the scene that confuses me because this connects some of the plot threads in the episode, right? That we're looking for Himamiya. Which means, is there a point in this episode where shit starts to become fake? Is it when you enter the hall? Is that when shit becomes fake, but everything before that is real? At least in a sense? That Mikage came over and tried to talk to you about shit, and then by the very end it's like, oh yeah, we're just here looking for Himamiya. And then Utena doesn't know anything. She's like, I don't know what happened with the hall. Did something happen? And then Mickey's like, yeah, fucking 100 kids died. This is something that Utena should already know, which I guess calls into question how much of the arc is even real. There appeared to be no casualties, but since it was before the student council was established, no records remain? Question mark? I don't know what this means. Did 100 kids actually not die? Or is it just because it was a long time ago that we don't have records and we can't actually know? Now, this is weird, right? So Mickey is thinking here, I don't even know what this building is called. There is an earlier point in this arc where Mickey is in this building, where he is being courted by Mikage. Did that just not happen, or is that a metaphor for something else? I'm not quite sure I understand. Like, hey, Mickey's too well adjusted to go down the elevator and we can't quite convince him to do so as Mikage? Is Mikage a ghost? I think he is. And then Mickey calling out that he hates when he can't remember stuff. What's the matter? Are you sympathizing with him? And this is Archie, right? Are you sympathizing with him as Mamiya? Or are you sympathizing with Mikage holding on to something in the past? Or I don't understand. I guess you must be sympathizing with Mamiya, right? Who realizes that they no longer exist in this academy? Or is this a representation of Mamiya sympathizing with Mikage? I think that has to be the interpretation here, for sure. So do you feel sorry for him right now? Well, he no longer exists. In fact, he never existed. Yeah, he never did in the first place. Must be talking about Mikage. Quite the same as you. Never existing, and then hand on Mamiya, who then turns into Anshi. Are we meaning to say that, Okay, I think we're meaning to say that Mamiya never existed in the way we thought Mamiya existed, and Mikage never existed in the way we thought Mikage existed, but Anshi existed, and now she's looking at the camera like this is all part of our plan. Something like that. I think that's what's going on. I've talked for 80 minutes. I need to stop. Yeah, so based on my other cut in before, I definitely think there's way more validity to the theory that Mamiya was Anshi the entire time? Question mark? So hey, every single time we've seen Mamiya on screen, it's been kind of Anshi, even maybe in a metaphysical sense, maybe not, maybe actually physically, has been there pushing him along. Again, he's another Rose Seal user, that being Mikage, and we can manipulate him for our means however we want. We're using Anshi in our little game here as the end of the world to push people towards dueling, basically at all times. And that scene at the very end is Anshi the entire time, but it's a representation of her time as Mamiya with Mikage. Do you miss him? But he never actually existed. You never actually existed as well, because it was all part of our plan the entire time. We played Mikage like a fiddle, us being Akio, Anshi, the end of the world, that whole side of it. I think that is entirely possible as well, and definitely paints Anshi as almost a full-on villain. Listen, we've talked about, remember Shiori in the Locket? I've talked about Anshi's role there as well. Is she just puppeteering, 5D chessing this entire time and pushing people more and more towards this conflict from both ends? But then the kicker is that these people are trying to murder Anshi. So is she relying on them not being successful in murdering herself? And then what does that mean for Utena? Is this all part of the plan? Is that, in a way, trying to make Utena stronger? What did it mean with the Wakaba part then? Okay, that is definitely an interpretation. I don't know if that's correct. Again, I'm relying on you guys a lot here to clean up my big old 3-hour video mess. So have fun doing that. Because I've got another episode to do. I need to do 24 today, so... Jesus Christ. That was a lot. This is easily going to be like my longest video on the channel that's about TV anime. I'm going to have to edit this thing down here in a second as well. It's confusing. Bear with me. I tried my best. I'm still not quite sure on everything. I think my closest running theory is that a point in the episode, it turns to delusion, and then from there entirely it's almost delusion, but some points it isn't delusion. Like when Utena's looking at the Rose Seal, because Mikage is known in that scene and it's Mikage's delusion, so why would he think about that? Sure. Overall stuff, I believe Nemuro Hall never existed, and that everybody else's descents were metaphorical. Cool, I'm with that. It makes sense that something so supernatural wouldn't exist in that same way. It makes sense that the corpses down below are a metaphorical representation of Nemuro's feelings of the past and how they apply to the now, as opposed to physically somebody getting possessed or the bunch of dead bodies being preserved. That makes sense. The Anshi stuff at the very end still confuses me. I think I've got a pretty concrete grasp that they're talking about Mikage and Mamiya as opposed to Anshi, because Anshi needs to be real, otherwise the whole show falls apart, I think. However, it is important to understand that, hey, this one supernatural element with the elevators not existing also opens up the door for the, I guess, arena and the duels being more metaphorical than we're currently looking at right now. And now I've got to stop talking. So thanks for watching and stuff. That was an episode and a half. I think I enjoy other episodes a little bit more, but this was wild. This was crazy. This is the biggest plot twist thus far. Individual episodes like the Wakaba episode are a little bit stronger, I think. Episode 20, that sounds right. But yeah, definitely top couple of episodes. I would imagine it's divisive, if I had to guess. But yeah, I'm saying goodbye now. Show stuff. So if you like the video, consider liking the video. If you like the video and you want to see more, consider subscribing to the channel. Comment below anything you thought about the episode, anything I could do to improve my presentation. Comment below. I'm doing follow for follow on Twitter, so follow me on Twitter if you'd like me to follow you back. And the Discord. Join Discord. Love Discord. Discord. And the Patreon. Join Patreon. Episode 24 should be up there, like now. So you should go do that at your nearest leisure. That kind of thing, if you want to be 1 week ahead and stuff. And yeah, I'm signing out. Thanks for watching Utena episode 23, blow my fucking mind o'clock episode with me. Catch you later. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.